Uh, is this mic okay? Hold on. I should. Gosh, I don't know what it is, but I am sneezing like crazy right now. Let's see. Da da da. Where is my mic? Okay, that's good. For a second, I thought it was really messed up. Anyways, hello.
Sleepy.
Happy, oh gosh, it's still on. At work, can't stay for long. All good, all good. Appreciate you dropping by. Yeah, it seems good. I was worried because like I had a power outage in the morning. And then I think like some of my settings reset. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it's okay. A bit quiet though. I can adjust it a little bit more. Let's see. I'm gonna put it right there for now, and that should be a little better. Yeah. Anyways, gosh, what a way to start. The fact that I sneezed means like my nose is gonna be clogged up for a little bit, which sucks. It was like I was a bit far earlier. Yeah, I think I was leaning back. I might have been like way over here. Yeah. Anyways. We are right here at the end. Finally. Affectionately. Only a few more daydreams left to go. And then we will be in daybreak territory. Ah, jeez. Hold on. Let me blow my nose. Yeah, genuinely, worst timing for me to just start sneezing. Like, it was like right as soon as I hit my intro, like right at the last like 20 seconds. I was like, oh boy, how about we sneeze like 50 times? Anyways though, I guess let's jump right into it. We got what I'm assuming is like four daydreams. I was told that Beyond the Reverie includes like three other stories after it's like done. So we got a little bit of a, looks like some reading backstory, and then the lead into daybreak. Let's do it. Also, yeah, I mega overslept. Originally, I was supposed to start at like 12 my time. Then I got up at like 12 my time. 3 months after the Battle of Jormungand's end, Major Rivelt had sent me a confidential letter. I had no reason to decline the request then. Okay, my nose will clear up eventually. So I paid a visit to the Valflame Palace. Could you give us some privacy? I forget how Eugen sounds. Certainly, Your Majesty. So this is it. This is my dad's study. Osborne's study. We've seen him sitting there in the openings. It feels a little surreal to be in here. I understand why you might feel that way. I'd come to sort out his belongings after the war's end. But to my surprise, there was nothing left to sort. He never was one for displaying sentimental goods and the like, but I can only assume he disposed of what little he had beforehand. I could see that for him, yes. But if there's nothing here, what is it What is it you said you wanted to give me in the letter? Ah, it would be something I found in the ashes of his fireplace. Oh? This is... Is it a photo? Wah! Judging by its state, I should think it came from his diary. Nothing else remains of the diary itself, unfortunately, but I thought you should still have this. Please take it. Thank you, Your Majesty. This is more than enough for me. Knowing he treasured this photograph till his last days means more than words can say. I'm grateful you thought of me when you found it. Then all is well. He was a lucky man to have you as his son. It was regrettably difficult for me to mourn him in public with his role in this war. But I heard you were able to carve his name into the grave he'd made for your mother at your old home. Yes, I took the chance when I was nearby for a branch campus assignment. It was a quiet area of the suburbs, so I'd like it if he and my mother could rest in peace there. Gilead was a great friend to me, and a proud hero who's lived in service to the Empire. I shall make it my business to visit the grave myself. I'd like to visit the Lance Maiden's grave in Crossbell as well. I'm sure they'd appreciate you being there. Not that I knew either of them well enough to speak on their behalf, of course. That is just as true for me in a sense. I'd seen him as a politician, but I'd only caught the slightest glimpse of him as a father. It's never too late to begin learning more, however, even if he is no longer with us. The Great Twilight is over. The nation's suffering has come to an end. There's no better time to gather up the pieces we missed during our time of conflict. I suppose you're right. Her memories aglow. Picked up the Battlefield games, one kind of slaps. Not sure about 5, 2042, pretty yeah, that sounds about right. Personally for me, I didn't really get into 1 all that much. I thought 5 was okay. 2042 is fine. Yeah, it's very The more I look at it, the more surreal it feels. I saw something similar in the spectral moon mirror, but it's hard to imagine he used to smile like this. Guess that goes to show how little I really knew about him. Hopefully I can find more little things like this and take good care of them. Does Reen have a Papa diary? Now we're in for a busy day tomorrow, so I better get some rest. Yeah, I think of the Battlefields, I probably have the most memories is like Battlefield 3, personally. Are we gonna have like a dream? Is Reen gonna have a dream? It came to me in a dream moment. The amount of spirit energy in that photograph. I have accepted the Ebon Knight, but it is not by its will that I have chosen to bring destruction to the Empire. This is the only way to rid the land of the curse that has plagued it for so long. To end this world my loved ones call home will require renouncing my very humanity. Yet it is a price I will pay. I am willing to pay. From this day forward, I will see myself as a being of blood with a soul of iron, guiding all to a future of conflict. I write these words in my diary to show that I have chosen my path, that my will is still my own. Is that Lecter or Reen? No, that's definitely Lecter. Reen is, baby mode. I knew I would need pawns to achieve the future I so desired. Not long after having this realization did I happen upon a boy with the gift of precognition. His name is Lecter Arundel. What a funny twist of fate that he should be that man's son. The boy had accepted the hand fate had dealt him. Both his father's crimes and that it would lead him, to be silenced. I've given him a new home as one of my pawns, giving him a purpose in the form of revenge. Did I do this out of compassion? An emotion I thought I'd abandoned? Or has seeing him reminded me of the son I've turned my back on? His father's crimes came to be the whispers of the Ebon Night. There is no reason for the child left behind to carry the weight of such an indelible sin. I know not whether his foresight has allowed him to see the ruin I aim to bring about, but regardless, he has accepted my offer with great interest. We talking about the Iron Bloods. My next meeting has come soon after my promotion to Chancellor of the Imperial Government. While on a state business meeting with the four great houses, I happened upon a fascinating young man. His name is Rufus Alborea, and he appears intelligent as he is hollow on the inside. He thinks of me as his true father, and he believes that besting me will give meaning to his existence. It feels almost cruel to find myself being called someone's father again. But meeting someone who seeks to do more than I ever could has been a fine boon indeed. May he show me humanity's potential. May he prove we are not powerless in the face of the curse, nor are we simple pieces on a game board. I know calling himself an Ironblood, a son of mine, will not be enough to satisfy him. Perhaps once he finds the answers he seeks, he will be fit to lead in the times to come. Two years have passed since my appointment to Chancellor. Rufus and Lecter have served me well, and word of the Ironbloods has begun to spread. What has dampened this just so is the passing of an old friend from Thor's. The circumstances surrounding his death are highly suspicious, enough for me to suspect that the Ebon Knight was to blame. It was when I went to handle the matter personally that I had happened to meet his daughter, Claire Rivelt. In a clear manifestation of the Ebon Knight's dreaded hand toying with Erebonian lives, the tragedy had awakened a peculiar gift in her, a kind of enhanced cognition. I chose to leave the matter of her father's death in her hands, and though it pained her greatly to do so, she has demonstrated the resolve to stand against destiny. Thinking this meeting to also be fate, I've invited her to join the Ironbloods as well. What she will discover on this road to ruin, I do not know, but on behalf of my friend, I intend to bear witness as she finds it. I visited Jurai, and after negotiating with its mayor, it was agreed that it would be taken as a province of Erebonia's. And around that time, who should show as if she had been waiting for this moment all along but my dear friend. I'd heard she was calling herself the Steel Maiden after accepting a position in the society. But when talking to her, she was the same as I'd remembered. She still thought to express concern for my well-being. With Jurai now under imperial rule, the seeds of the curse have begun to blossom. The stage will soon be set for the rivalries. When I told her this, she left without saying much more. She deserves so much for what she's endured. I wish I could have let her know, but perhaps she too would prefer to appear strong. She's kind of attractive, yeah. Aryan Road is very pretty. We like knight armor. A fourth member has joined the Ironbloods. Her name is Milliam Orion, a new model homunculus with the nearly last in her line serial number, OZ73. As pure and innocent a being as I've ever seen, she was quick to gain a sense of self, developing in the blink of an eye. Milliam has been able to give the other Ironbloods what I cannot. The more time they spend with her, the more I see Claire and Lecter's expressions soften. I can only hope that through her they have regained a small portion of what the Ebon Knight took away. What a sinful manner of forging a sword, and what a fitting manner with the end it is destined to bring. I have long accepted that I will bear any sin for my goal, knowing full well my fate will be to accompany Ishmelga to Gehenna's depths. Oh man, is this during Sky the Third Door? Prince Oliver's role in ending the crisis in Liberl was reported far and wide. When he soon after returned to the Empire like a hero aboard the kingdom's Arseal, It was almost impossible to escape the story. I forgot how to say that, RCL. It is the fucking Sky the Third. I visited Liberl to offer my own greeting before his departure. But by doing so, he reminded me once more that he is a man of endless surprises. It was as if the lion slumbering within the Empire had awakened and taken his form. As I execute my plan to fill the world with conflict, he seeks to find a third way. His efforts are nothing but a hindrance in bringing about the Great Twilight. But I cannot help but feel excited by his declaration. If he's going to challenge me, then he had best put up a worthy fight. The conflict he seeks to stop will be great enough to engulf even Crossbell. I look forward to seeing how he intends to counter it. Yeah, we're just getting like a Osborne rundown from the very beginning then, it seems. I received word that students from Thor's military academy would be coming to the capital on a field study. And among the Class 7 was a familiar face. I'd been given updates on his growth from Teo and Claire, but it was the first time I had seen him as a young man. I could see right away that he had become just like his mother, a kind soul who valued the well-being of others over himself. He's the picture of health now, and for that I am grateful. I regret to write, however, that the curse has had a clear influence on him, adding to his internal strife. I knew it was bound to happen. He has the heart of the one closely linked to the curse. Having in the background, can't play it. Oh, you're chilling, brother. Like, that is what I'm here for. I dare not think of Kasha's face as she watches us from heaven, or the pain she must feel seeing the cruel fate I have thrust upon our child. Does she know that if he could not control himself now, then he has no chance of surviving the days that are yet to come? It won't be long before the Great Twilight is upon us. All I can do is as his mother does. Watch and see how he fares. Crow. Our favorite. October 30th. The newly independent Crossbell destroyed our Guerrilla fortress. As foretold in the Black Records, this led to Erebonia declaring war on Crossbell. There was one development, however, that it did not foresee. Crow Armbrust, the grandson of Jurai's mayor. He was but an ordinary boy on the surface, bellying the searing vehemence beneath his skin that gave him the strength to match even me. Though everything has been proceeding as planned, he has allowed me to see the heights of humanity's potential for the first time in a long while. At the same time as this developed, another came to be as I feared it would. Rain Schwarzer has accepted becoming an Awakener for Valimar. The Ebon Knight's power grows ever greater as the Civil War rages on. The Ashen Knight may be quite capable, but without sufficient resolve it will fall against the Ebon Knight with ease. As the one who thrust this upon you, I doubt you would ever want to hear this from me. But only you can change your course. I dearly pray you find the will to fight against your fate. July 18th. The Grawl of Erebos has been made manifest. Prince Olivert had broken through all attempts to obstruct him reaching the scene. All for naught. He has met a tragic end. Human life is but dust to be scattered by the winds. Be you commoner or nobility, hero or villain. Even he was no exception to the rule and fell like any other. His loss is a deeply tragic one, for I had thought him uniquely capable of rebuilding the Empire after the Great Twilight's end. The wings of the hero have been broken, and in the despair that followed, the sword of the end was swung at last. With Milliam's grievous demise, a final restraint chaining Reen has been unbound. Hold on. Clearing the nose again. A little better now. He has been consumed by the curse, becoming the sacrifice decreed by fate so long ago. I nearly thought he would succeed in suppressing its hold on him with how long he fended it off. It may be for the best that he will live through this miserable period as a mindless ogre. By the time he returns to his senses, the Ebon Knight and I will no longer be of this world. I would ask that he be able to rest until the rivalries have reached their climax. September 1st. Operation Jormungand and the final rivalry is now upon us. Though we fell to the fiery depths of despair, Rain rose from the ashes and has since fought valiantly for my defeat. The curse's power is at its peak, and still he prevailed. I can hardly believe how much he's grown. His friends may have played a part in this, but that alone does not explain it. What has elevated him to heights beyond prophetic imaginings? I wish I knew. As much as I wish I could have learned it by watching over him as a father. This isn't like me at all. I shouldn't be losing myself at such a critical point. Should he somehow defeat me, my son will be forced to bear the full weight of the curse's power. Yet if he has the strength to oppose me, then I will take it as my first and final paternal duty, to see him wrest it from my grasp. To hope for miracles in this world is a fool's errand. Still. Goddess, are you so merciful as to lend your ears to one such as me? If so, then I pray. I missed it. They autoed that one, I didn't have time. Damn, so the diary was gone, but Reen still got the entire rundown from the dream.
Huh? That felt too real to be a dream. I could be wrong, but I think I'll trust my gut on this one. He was always prioritizing the happiness of others, while shouldering burdens one should never have to bear alone. Like father, like son, huh?
Damn.
I wish I could have done more for him. Right. I still can. My father gave me life, and my friends gave me a reason to live that life. Simply living well is the best way I can repay him and my mother. That doesn't absolve the bad, but...
Morning, Kurt. The weather's beautiful today, huh? I'm so bad at waking up early.
Good morning, Yuna. Altina. And what a coincidence. Muse and Ash are coming out at the same time.
A new day, a new diet to keep myself cute for the instructor. I binged on way too much sugar last night.
Thought I could sneak out before you guys.
No skipping out for you, Grumpy Gus. Now let's get to running.
Time to start the day.
Nodders. Yeah, the soundtrack in this part is really good too. Damn, that's pretty good. Yeah, all the daydreams in this game cook. Oh shit, and they give Reen true domination here. I mean, a little late for it. We already cooked with that, like, with that build, but it is hinting.
Rendering browsing interface.
That was a pretty short one too. Like, I feel like I spent like 3 minutes sneezing at the start of the stream, so to finish this one in like 20 something minutes is like really fast. I wonder if these ones are gonna be like a lot longer. Alright, Daybreak Hook. These are but minute fragments of memories drifting in an endless ocean. Memories of what will be in the near future. Did I win yet? Almost. We're on the last thing. Could they be shadows of the tangled threads woven by Elysium? Or perhaps faded illusions that slip through the cracks of time and space? There are none who know the answer. And then we get to pick. We'll maybe work our way down. Hot spring to student to garden. So there are 3 stories here. January year 1208 of the Septian calendar. Between 2 great mountains on at the tip of the Calvardian Basin sits Longlie. The town is known for 2 things, being the eastern entrance to the Republic and its exceptional hot springs. Through these enticing factors, does it continue to welcome tourists hailing from both home and abroad. Yet today it served guests quite unlike its many unseasoned visitors. These had come from another renowned hot spring paradise situated in the northern reaches of Erebonia. Renafam? The depth of flavor in the food here is just exquisite. Agreed. Agreed. The Phoenix Wings food is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but I have my doubts the chef could replicate dishes this unique in taste. The Bichon Inn's reputation continues to precede itself. Baron Teo and Lady Lucia Schwarzer were sampling the inn's culinary delights, spirits high and stomachs filling fast. Their daughter, Elise, sat next to them, her spirit a bit lowered by comparison, as her brows furrowed with concern. I'm sure its luxuries come with just an equally luxurious price tag, and there's 4 of us, so even 2 nights must have cost a small fortune. Upon realizing what she said, she shook her head. I didn't mean to damper the mood. I know we have the money, but all my budgeting as student council president has been a terrible habit of me seeing the numbers and everything. Her older brother Rain couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Then the budget buster and you will like how much we saved. Because we're not here as paying customers. We were invited by the owners personally. They said they wanted to get to know us since we run similar establishments, so here we are. And we'll be inviting them to Ymir sooner than later, of course. Right, Dad? Oh, absolutely. Add this to the list of boons coming from our countries finally coming to terms with one another. The Republic is reveling in unheard of levels of prosperity, and the relations between our people are more active and festive than ever. I, for one, welcome any opportunity to further foster friendship. The Baron took another healthy sip of his baijiu before continuing. Friendship over fighting, I say. Such a shame that the world tends to overcomplicate that simple concept. Seeing her husband's glass was almost empty, Lucia filled it to the brim while adding her own thoughts. That's all the more reason we need to make the most of this invitation and enjoy ourselves to the fullest. The children nodded in agreement. And even that aside, there's no reason to spoil a family vacation when we so rarely have the time to take them. Oh, I read about some unusual sweet dishes we're trying here. Would you like to share some with me, Rain? In a bit. I'm thinking of taking another soak in the hot spring, so I might be in the mood for something sweet after. The food here is delicious, but as far as I'm concerned, the hot springs are the real star of the show. That's my boy right there. The ruling lord of the hot springs paradise would never let a good discussion about them pass by. He was as fond of their quality and soothing effects as Rain, enthusiasm undeniably apparent from the warmth of his tone and the width of his smile. The medicinal springs happen to be a favorite of mine. I can't help but be fascinated by them time and time again. I can believe it. I've always known about them, but here's the first place I've been able to feel the way they warm you right to the core. Think we can make one available at the Phoenix Wings? It'd be worth a try, but that comes with its own obstacles. For as many problems as Teo expressed in practical terms, Rena held just as many proposed solutions. The conversation grew more involved by the minute, leaving the ladies of the house to pleasedly bask in their glow and continue enjoying the meal before them. All four felt the same, that it had been too long since they could enjoy each other's company, but the wait had been well worth it. That night, after indulging in his post-dinner soak in the springs and telling his family he was going for a walk, Rin departed the inn. Alright, let's do this. He took a deep breath. Crisp night air of Longlai filled his lungs. The hot springs were an excellent bonus to his trip, to be sure, but it was not the real reason he agreed to visit. Is that Kafai? He had come in search of Yun Kafai, the famed sword hermit. Master Kafai was the founder of the Eight Leaves One Blade School, of which Rin was a practitioner, and though now over 70 years old, he was still regarded as one of the strongest combatants on the continent. They had not met since before Rin's enrollment at Thor's. Many a letter was exchanged during the 4 years that followed, but even they had stopped after Rin earned the right to call himself a Divine Blade over a year ago. There was so very much he wished to discuss with his master. What he had learned in his 4 years of training, what had transpired since becoming a Divine Blade, the true meaning behind being the final blade to master the Eight Leaves. There's plenty I'd like to ask that have nothing to do with the swordsmanship too. All these questions, all impossible to answer without first knowing the whereabouts of a single individual. Even a senior practitioner like Cassius Bright claimed ignorance, having received not a single update from their old master. He's always been an elusive but traceable sort. But wherever he was now, he was next to impossible to track. That was until word of a blade master being sighted in Longlai reached Rin's ears. The man held a fondness for the town's specialties, those being the hot springs and its fragrant tea leaves, making the sighting worthy of a particular note. He also knew from the letters before they stopped that he intended to journey eastward, making Longlai one of the more plausible stopping points. The word came to him just as the Schwarzers were invited to stay at the inn during the New Year vacation. Rin's instincts told him the timing was a little too fortunate, but with how vague the lead was, even it would most likely result in him leaving the same as he had arrived. Wait, let me read that again. Rin's instincts told him the timing was a little too fortunate, but with how vague the lead was, even it would most likely result in him leaving the same as he had arrived. While he had not discussed the rumor being key to his traveling here, his family seemed to sense it was more than a simple pleasure trip for him. I know Dad would have a great time catching up with him, but I don't want to get his hopes up for nothing. These thoughts in mind, Rin made his way through the night streets. Man, these visuals are really nice. Longlai's architecture was distinctly Eastern, making it a uniquely intriguing sight amongst most of Calvard's towns and cities. This was not to say it was similar to Crossbelzy Street. With subtle colors paired with dignified beauty, every wall and stone exuded with the traditional concept of wabi-sabi. One look was enough to understand the region was rich with history. This quiet charm would give way to contrastly lively evenings, where tourists both westward and farther eastward were greeted to stalls dedicated to the hot springs and more. This too held a traditional sort of charm. Rin asked several merchants if they had information pertaining to the whereabouts of his master, somewhat sheepishly purchasing a number of souvenirs from their stalls to keep himself from being a nuisance. They, he justified, would make excellent gifts for his friends, his co-workers, and his students. Bro, they're about to come back with 30 or 40 gifts. Whoa! Wait, that fit for Rin looks really nice. Spoiler Spoiler, sort of, but that looks like his fit for the Kai trailer. I guess they just built his fit around this then. I can't believe it's almost time for them to graduate. I might be more emotional about theirs than I was for mine. For the first time, Rean would get to experience what it was like for the young birds he had taken under his wing for 2 years, to finally leave the nest. Their first year had been eventful, to say the least. What had started as a problem class full of disagreements and mounting tension had slowly grown into one of compassion and understanding for one another. It was with each new discovery about themselves and every new ordeal the world sought to impose upon them that they grew not only as individuals, but as a team. He hoped this period would remain as much a meaningful part of their lives as it would always be for him. The months before the Retributive Tower's appearance held many a trial, making the 10 months that followed in its shadow pass all too quickly. In that time, Rean students continued to mature, building on everything they accomplished in their first year to prepare for and settle into their desired future. Indeed, whatever it was by overcoming their demons or by... Indeed, whether it was by overcoming their demons or by learning to work with them in a healthier fashion, their paths up till now had been well worn, and while they may have had to rest from time to time, he was proud to be a part of why their steps continued to face forward. Proud, but also lonely at the thought of saying goodbye. As their second year drew to a close, lacking in grandiose events but still rewarding in its own right, it was this mixture of emotions that bore conflict within him most. Can't believe I'm going to be going through it all over again next year, and even the year after that. Hell of a career I chose to pursue, huh? He didn't know when he stopped walking. Realizing this, he resumed his search, paying respects in mind to the many generations of educators who came before him. No matter where he looked, he couldn't find Master Kafai and Longlai. It was, however, still too early to say whether the trip had been in vain, as he had at least caught an unverified report of the Blade Master being seen in the mountains to the south. Wandering such terrain at night wasn't going to be ideal, but Rean was already firm on spending the next day with his family. Tonight, it would have to be. Making a brief stop to the inn to tuck his souvenirs somewhere secure, he then departed for his new destination. The mountains winding, half-beaten trails would be more treacherous at night, but they were not off limits as such. The key, Rean knew, would be to not rely on sight alone. His senses of hearing and smell, perhaps even touch, were going to be equally vital in the hours ahead. Calling upon his experience and intellect to heighten all 5 senses, he took in his surroundings in full. This really takes me back to training in the mountains. To call the experience training would imply his time being one of simple tutelage between student and master, but it equated to so much more. The danger then was far worse than it was now, with some days requiring him to set foot in highly dangerous territories, just to find the day's food to survive. Sounds like the Kunlun Mountains may have been used for a similar exercise a long time ago. Rean was certain to think on the information gained during his search as he continued along the trail. Searching for evidence of human activity in an environment like this was not a difficult task. Humans always leave something indicative of their presence behind that no wild creature could. Be it a long dead fire, footprints, or traces of going on the hunt, one need only follow the likes to lead to their source. Rean did so, advancing with the caution instilled in him by both his old master and hunting enthusiast of a father. They soon led him precisely to clear evidence a human had been in the area, though the evidence itself was far from what he expected. Remains of a camp? No, this is... It didn't look like it had been left by martial artists in training or roaming hunters, but the most peculiar thing was that there was multiple sites like the first, all evenly spaced from one to the next. It was as though something was being measured. Maybe this is from a group of scholars doing field research, but it seems too large in scale for that. There was nothing more to be found here. Rin advanced. Soon after, he found another unusual amount of evidence. It's like someone forced their way through here in a car, or more like hacked open a path wide enough for a car to pass through. All further inspection here suggested that whoever was responsible had given up on this endeavor, leading him to wonder if they had somehow found success elsewhere. And if they did, why had they done this at all? The questions pestered him. If there was anywhere to clear wide paths, the remote depths of the mountains certainly were not it. But instincts told him he was only a step away from discovering the answer. If only I could keep following this trail a little further. At this thought, Rin sensed someone approaching. One person. Two people. Yes, there were two, and it was clear they were aware of his presence as well. Only for a fleeting second did he think they might be the ones responsible for the strange trails. But a deadly tension that now thickened the air told him they were no simple scholars. He felt them draw near, the night veiling themselves well. And then he felt them stop. How about you show yourselves? He spoke without placing his hand, How about you show yourselves? He spoke without placing his hand on his tachi, signifying to those watching that he had no desire to fight. The silhouettes then silently emerged from the darkest shadows of the mountains. They looked very much like the shinobi of the east he had heard about, their forms clad from top to bottom in black garments, and their faces fully obscured. Kinda hard? I see your insight poses a threat after all, Divine Blade of the Empire. The contract with our client has yet to begin, but we will make an exception for one among their list of dangerous persons. The silhouettes then charged. They caught him completely off guard, drawing short, straight blades to attack him as they narrowed in. Rin's eyes widened in surprise, but nearly in the same moment, he was in a fighting stance, hand over his still sheathed tachi. Fifth form, Morning Moon! He perceived the direction of his foe's attacks to evade them, then mounted a counterattack of his own. All it took was that instant to repel their assault and leave them vulnerable. Ordinarily, this would be the time to take the offensive, but all Rin could do was stare at the two in disbelief. The thought entered my mind as I saw you move, but now that we've crossed blades... He paused, the disbelief in his eyes giving way to a more intent gaze. Are you practitioners of the Eight Leaves School? Another pause. This time from the silhouettes before answering as though they were all aware the question was coming. No, though we do possess ties to that school. We are of the Ikaruga, practitioners of the Black God One Blade School. The what? Rin was left stunned. The two Ikarugas held their blade horizontally, ready to thrust him forward at any moment. It was as though they wanted to make clear that while they had been caught off guard once, he would not be so fortunate twice. Rin responded by assuming the middle stance with his tachi. But just as the sides were only a beat away from engaging in battle, what could only be described as a black cyclone roaring from the darkness at such speed that it seemed certain to slice anything it touched. Its appearance caught Rin by surprise more than the initial attack by the silhouettes. He had not suspected an attack from that angle, that distance, even that moment. His enemies, on the other hand, did not so much as flinch at the sight. The approaching blade was over an arch and a half in length. The approaching blade over an arch and a half in length was headed directly for Rin's back. He couldn't possibly dodge it now. Perhaps he should have noticed. Perhaps it was impossible to notice. Whatever the answer, the divine blade of the Empire would soon fall. The silhouettes waited in for his final moments to be, convinced of no other fate in his future. When Rin spun his body in a full circle, Applying the intensity built in Itachi from the motion to swing, the blow made was weighted yet precise, shifting the incoming blade to a new direction without mitigating its near overpowering force. This technique was an application of the first form, Helix. There was no greater course in the moment than to use it to redirect the attack without it ever making direct contact. The spinning blade was now significantly off its intended course, but Rin slashed at it again, birthing a shockwave that further shifted its path. The blade went flying hairs to the right of the direction it had come from. A hand was there to deftly catch it in midair. Yo, wait! Yo, these guys look like they don't mess. You may have only recently taken the title, but you're worthy of being called a Divine Blade all the same. You used the unclouded eye well. From this hand emerged a new figure from the darkness. While he was clad in a similar garment to the silhouettes, something about his presence was much more inspired by comparison. They said he's got main character energy. His musculature was thoroughly discernible, beneath his body covering fortified suit. His every movement, however slight, reflected a complete lack of hesitation, and the faint light in his eyes, visible through his mask, projected no emotion whatsoever. The man possessed the aura of a true warrior, one projected only by those who have fought more battles than was possible to count. Fall back. He is too formidable a foe for you to handle. The silhouette slid into the darkness in an instant. Only the new arrival was left to face Rin. I need to know, who are you? Why did you attack me? Our contract forbids the disclosure of such information. You will leave this place now, fledgling Divine Blade. The tone was not one of advice, nor one of an order. It was as if the man was stating a fact, his calmness veiling an undertone of malice that told Rin what would happen if he had not done what he was told. I'm afraid I can't do that without an explanation. Now, I haven't found what I'm looking for yet. I understand then. There was no longer anything to discuss. All they could do was battle. I, Kurogane of the Rokusetsu School, shall be your opponent. Kurogane stood at attention. The large blade he had thrown before now pointed. I'd have rather settled this with words, but I can see that's not an option. Rin sighed, taking his own stance in turn. Then, Rin Schwarzer, Master of the 8 Leaves 1 Blade School 7th Form, shall be yours! The Divine Blade moved instantly. The bizarre weapon Kurogane wielded was less akin to a sword and more 4 equally sized blades arranged in the shape of a cross, their bases connecting to a single point. That he could direct this large weighted shuriken as though it were a simple child's toy spoke volumes about how strong he was. Still, even it was not infallible, for it was not one to be ideally used in close range combat. Kurogane appeared to have no other key weapons on hand, either meaning that if Rin could force him to fight where he'd be in his most disadvantageous, he would very likely come out of this the victor. This was what he had in mind when choosing the act first. Second form, Gale! He closed the gap between them, drew his blade, and made a wide swing towards his opponent in the blink of an eye. Kurogane blocked the blow with ease. That, however, meant nothing in the larger scheme of things. Rin knew well that this man's capabilities, so long as the gap between them was closed, and it was, he considered the attack a success. But just as he thought he would be able to push onward and overpower his foe by mounting a newly fierce assault, Kurogane had split his cross-shaped shuriken in half. The ease at which he did made it clear this was intended by design. Brother hit the Viper. Bro hit the fucking Viper, but it's still dual wield blades. That's pretty hard. Do we know anyone like that? Not really. He can dual wield double sabers? There was no hiding his shock. In the West, double sabers were seen as relics from the Dark Ages that were difficult to utilize. Crow was the only person Rean knew who was competent with one, and only one. The skill it would take to use two was almost too difficult to fathom. His surprise created an opening that Kurogane was not going to let pass unexploited. Possessing twin two-ended blades allowed the shinobi to perform considerably more strikes than Rean, giving him no chance to push back. Steel sparked as their weapons clashed. Kurogane was dominant for some time, but he could do nothing to bolster his advantage. With strike and spark after strike and spark, the advantage was moving back to Rean. This was in part due to him being used to fighting this weapon that defied rationale. This was in part due to him being used to fighting this weapon that defied rationale. It was also because he had been given the time to find what he was looking for. The perfect range in which to attack. This kind of reminds me of was it Fate Zero? Where it was like, it was like Saber versus like, I forget their name. Was it like Gay Bold or something? And like they were just trying to figure out like the length. He was just trying to figure out the length of like Saber's like invisible blade. Double sabers were forged with a shorter reach than they appeared to have. Something inevitably due to their handle being in the middle. This could have been because he also used them as shuriken. But the length of Kurogane's sabers were even shorter than Crow's, meaning Rean would have to adjust with the longer length of his blade. He measured patiently, staying only just out of Kurogane's reach and evading the onslaught by a hair's breadth each time prior to countering. It was calculated, quickly thanks to Kurogane's frequent rapid attacks, meaning all Rean had to do now was wait for the right moment. This moment would come in the form of his opponent showing impatience for this stalled battle, driving him to take an unneeded step forward. Rean evaded the strike expertly, instantly returning it with an upward diagonal slash. The forceful swing of his tachi made contact with the handle of Kurogane's own swung weapon, cleanly knocking it out of his hand. Rean dashed forward to make use of this availed opportunity, but after only a flicker of bewilderment, Kurogane moved to deny him. He blocked Rean's attack with the double saber still in his possession, then hurled a hidden kunai with his free hand, jumping backwards a significant distance while doing so. Very good, Divine Blade of the Eight Leaves. You may pale to the skills of our princess, but you without a doubt deserve your reputation. Princess? Rean's intonation went unanswered as Kurogane took a notably different stance than before. I shall demonstrate my respect for your skill with my finest technique. This put Rean staunchly on guard, senses heightened. He focused every nerve in his body, fixing his eyes on whatever was to come from Kurogane, who was now gone. Brother hit the stealth. Nothing remained where Rean's opponent had just stood. He hadn't taken his eyes off him, never eased himself for a moment. Yet Kurogane was nowhere to be seen. How? How had he moved that quickly? Was it some kind of spatial translocation? There was no sign to indicate either one. Was it that he never moved at all and was still there, sight unseen? No, that wasn't it either. The double saber Rean had repelled to the ground was also gone. I can still sense him, though he's not that far, or he hasn't gone far. Rean suppressed the panic welling up within, honing his senses his senses a second time. That was when another black cyclone swirled towards him from the shadows. Half expecting something of this nature, so with little deviation, he was able to deflect it as he did the first time. The attack indicated that Kurogane had reassembled the shuriken after recovering its lost half, so he could throw it again. It also indicated, together with slight changes in its surrounding, where he was now positioned. Rean needed a little more time to know where he was for certain. But ahead of making a solid conclusion, the cyclone came at him yet again from a new angle. That was fast. Though he blocked this attack as well as the last, before he could fully correct his posture, the next cyclone approached. The gap between was getting shorter and shorter. There was another. The time was shorter, and another. Shorter. Soon these assorted smaller cyclones were seemingly growing into a blended, grand storm of death, with Rean trapped at its center. This doesn't feel like I'm being attacked by a single person. Did he make phantom copies of himself? He had no idea where the next cyclone would form. And by the time he located it, the next one was ready. Even the unclouded eye wasn't going to be enough for him to deduce Kurogane's location. He had been able to repel every blade that he met with so far, but that was growing increasingly difficult. I didn't want to use it, but I'm not sure if I have a choice. Well aware that doing so would place him in danger, Rean took his mind off the battle. He gave up blocking and evading attacks, dedicating the bare minimum of his focus to not sustaining lethal blows and focusing his mind inward. He focused on the power that he had long cultivated inside him. The power he had feared, loathed, rejected. The power he now relied on, desired and nearly surrendered himself to. The power he faced with his loved ones at his side, making it a true part of himself. With his mind clear as day, he unleashed his full strength. Enlightened Spirit Unification! He imbued his Tachi with the great power surging out of him, crying out as he did so, and spinning his body forcibly around to create a bladed circle around him. The energy released by his Tachi repelled all forthcoming shuriken with ease, and with them, Kurogane's phantom copies lurking in the darkness faded to nothing. With that, there you are. He charged towards Kurogane. The man was thoroughly overwhelmed by Rean's sudden counterattack, throwing him completely off balance. There was nothing he could do to repel what would come next. It's time to settle this. Rean swung his Tachi downward, while pouring all of his might into a final, single strike. But just as the two felt the battle was coming to an end, Zeroth form! Duality! Huh. Wait. Accompanied with a voice as beautiful as a bell, was a slash tearing through the sky. Its color so black it threatened to eclipse the moon. It effortlessly stopped Rean's weapon from reaching its target. But that wasn't all. What? With a high-pitched metallic sound, Rean's beloved Tachi was sundered cleanly in two. Princess? Kurogane was also taken aback by this new arrival. I heard what was happening from both our scouts. You could have invited me to join the fun instead of keeping it all to yourself. The words as she chided Kurogane indicated dissatisfaction, but the music of her tone betrayed her excitement. Rean made to see who this mysterious figure was. Damn. At the sight of her alone, the sight of her alone took his breath away. She was young, wearing a fortified suit that looked to be a marriage of classical and modern Eastern styles, with long silver hair that almost appeared to glow in the pale moonlight. Her age was likely close to Rean's, perhaps a little younger, with well-defined features that still held traces of adolescence, pairing strikingly in contrast to the empty void behind her eyes. Hello, hello, hello. How you doing, Watermelon? Watermelon Eddie? We are reading books. This is the book reading arc. These are actually like written like all the books. It's pretty cool. But paired with like some visuals and noises and stuff. There was the air of a young noblewoman who had been sheltered from impurities all her life. The stench of a baleful warrior who had bathed in the blood of countless lives. How she was both and neither at once. Rean could not understand, but it was the very quality that made her all the more captivating and dangerous. In the woman's left hand was a large, black engraved blade that threatened to freeze him for daring a glance at it. No doubt it was what halved Rean's Tachi moments ago. What did... Rean fumbled for the words as he clutched the useless handle tightly in his hand. The fair-haired woman only smiled as she looked down upon it. Your weapon was very fine, but it was never any match for my friend, I'm afraid. She spun the black blade in her hand, around gently before holding it up towards the night sky to seemingly display it with pride. It wasn't hard to see why she would boast about possessing such a weapon. He had seen many a blade of historical significance, but instincts told him that hers was better than any of those. The blunt side featured the intricate designs of deep gray that, while he could not discern its meaning there and then, he knew was nothing less than a work of art. There was an aura about it, one cold as ice, that seemed to reject its worldly surroundings, making it capable of cutting through anything it so desired. It came in company with the beautiful hilt of deep red that contrasted its body without feeling out of place. This juxtaposition was, in a sense, much a reflection of its wielder, with their two opposing natures being distinctive, yet also one. Marine thought as he observed her blade was clearly something special, but that alone did not explain the strength behind her attack. He had never heard of the technique she used, but it was certainly something connected to the 8 leaves in some way. The skill she showed in executing it made her equal to a divine blade. He was so fixated as these thoughts rushed through his mind that he was only brought out by her sudden laughter. I didn't think I'd ever meet you here. Wonder if our old master is behind guiding us to the same place. Or if it's just a happy coincidence. Wait. The manner in which she spoke and her familiarity with Reen gave him a theory. That technique you just used was really something. Consider me intrigued. It puts you a league above more interesting than our senior practitioners. So he was right. Are you? But before we, oh wait, hold on. Oh, that was her. That technique you used was really something. Consider me intrigued. It puts you a league above more interesting than our senior practitioners. So he was right. Are you? Before he could hear what he already knew, she turned away. Oh wait. Refusing to let him finish the question. Oh, are you? Are you is Reen? Are you? He isn't here, so why don't you go run on back to your family? Go and make the most of your vacation. Just don't let your skill with the blade slip. The world will need it again one day. She spoke with a certain satisfaction as she pointed down to the other half of his broken blade. She leapt high, seemingly disappearing on the other side of the moon. Reen could only stare, dumbfounded, as she vanished. He couldn't even speak. Kurogane left with her. The Ikaruga, the Black God One Blade School, and our senior practitioners. Reen had been unable to fulfill his objective, and not just that, he was left with countless new questions about the people he encountered, the mountain itself. He felt there was meaning behind being guided to this specific place, but how important it was or what it entailed, he did not know. And yet, the person responsible for discerning that won't be me. Looking down at his broken Tachi, he was struck anew with how massive the world truly was. He realized that now that his master was confirmed to be elsewhere, the purpose of his visit to Longlai was nothing more than to enjoy a wonderful, ordinary vacation with his family. This meeting here was a peculiar coincidence, for now at least. When I get back, I'll need to reforge my Tachi, and myself. Something stirred in this region, all across Calvard, but there was nothing he could do about that as he was. All he could focus on was training and bettering himself, so he could one day play a part against the next threat that loomed over the distant horizon. New resolve welling in his soul, he made his way through the now still mountain trail, back to where his loving family awaited. Another hot spring paradise. Yo, wait, if I'm reading that much for the rest of these, I think I should go grab some water. Hold on, I'm gonna go grab some water. I mean, I should have grabbed water regardless, but here I am. Oh, let me put in the little thing. It is hot, yeah. Luckily, we got the AC running, so it's not like terrible, but it is still warm in my room. There's my text. Getting that bread? No, we're getting that water. Okay, BRB. Future. Okay. Ended up getting a bit more. But we are back. Warmed up some of the extra food I had from the other day. Might just take like a quick bite so I have something in me, a little bit of that energy. And then we'll start reading the second one. I'll move my Mishi over here. They should make more Mishi merch. I would be there day one. Sell me a Mishi plush the size of like the Kita-san Black and Satano Diamond plushies. If you're familiar. Need me the Mishi the size of a small adult. Okay. That's good for now. Jump back into it. Oh. Alright, unconventional student. April, year 1208 of the Septian calendar. Aramis Academy is a famous educational institution in the Calverdian capital of Edith. The name derives from an artist central to Calvard's democratic revolution 100 years ago. This was also reflected in its goal of nurturing new talent, helping to forge a brighter future for a new republic. The Academy placed great value on traditional education, of course, but it also encouraged the perspectives of new cultures and values, attracting many an independent mind from across Zemuria. It was a storied place of learning that reflected the Republic's views as a whole. This story, for its part, begins not long after the springtime festival held yearly to welcome the new student body. It was just another morning at the Academy, countless students shuffling through its grounds, when one of them in particular happened to draw an unusual amount of attention. The young lady had long, soft violet hair crowned with a black ribbon. Ren. Her figure had been cut very respectably as she's matured into a young woman of 17 years, and yet her face still held traces of girlhood days bygone. The beauty she was, she never failed to turn inquisitive heads as she strolled along. That's our daughter! Her name was Ren Bright. She was a second-year student from Genis Royal Academy in Liberl, now studying at Aramis as part of an exchange program. She had only just arrived in the spring. Ren's goals in attending was not to further her education. She had been considered highly gifted since she was a child, having already earned several doctorates in years past, and there was little more a new academy would reasonably teach her. Her goal, in reality, was to use it as a front to operate freely in Calvard. It was hard to find one better than being a student. She already found the role relatively foolproof during her time in Genis. Even if there were limits to how much a student could get away with, society as a whole was soft on school children. To move freely would also require drawing as little attention as possible. She aimed to conduct herself modestly, as any elegant young woman who wished to remain unseen should, during her time at Aramis. There was just one very big problem with this plan. Good morning, Miss Bright. Isn't she just gorgeous? Look, I see her. She's so beautiful. Everyone says she's just as smart, too. All she had to do was walk down the hall to be showered with greetings and whispers of envy and admiration. Her looks alone were already enough to make her the talk of the school. But after one of the teachers let slip that she received a perfect score on her entrance exam, there was suddenly not a single person who didn't know her name. He still hasn't beaten the game, yes sir, how you doing? Happy Saturday. Though, like, at this point, we are definitely, like, in the end, like, this is the last stream. I think it's, like, 3 story times and we're done. They're making me read, some short stories. The other students cared not how much she wanted to avoid drawing attention. She was getting it, whether she liked it or not. Naturally, not everyone was pleased with the blooming popularity this new transfer student had attained in less than a month. While most were busy fawning over Ren's arrival that morning, another group watched the charade unfold from the shadows, echoing audible tuts of displeasure. Ren had yet to be enrolled in any clubs, so as soon as the day's lessons had come to an end, she packed her belongings and stood to leave. Oh, but she'd probably getting hella recruits, huh? A word, if I may, Miss Bright. It was a fellow classmate, surrounded by a small faction of students clearly loyal to their King Bee. Oh. Wait a second. Certainly. Though instinct told her this was not going to be a conversation she wanted to have, she made an effort to pretend otherwise. She would not be provoked into behaving as anything but a mature, modest young lady. I've been wanting to get to know you better for some time now, you see, so I was wondering if you might join me for a dinner this evening. The boy, Ronald Griffith, presented a gentlemanly smile. Ren was very much used to being asked out like this. Never once did she accept. She always made up some excuse to turn him down. Today would be no different. I'm ever so sorry. I'm afraid I have something urgent to take care of after school today. Some other time, perhaps. This was usually enough to get them to give up, but Ronald was a persistent one. Well, that won't do. I have something very important to discuss with you, and I've already booked us a table at a very fine restaurant, so we could discuss in detail. Is there really no way your business can wait? There was something ominous about his smile. Ren couldn't help but be curious what he was thinking. I'm afraid it can't. I'm sorry you've gone out of your way to prepare ahead of time. Still, I could spare a little time now, so I'd be happy to talk here if that's alright. So not tonight then. A pity. Ronald's tone read one less of a genuine sadness and more irritation that things were not going according to plan. While aware that he let slip his true feelings on the matter, he quickly composed himself and smiled. Now is better than ever, I suppose. This does concern everyone in the room, so perhaps it's all for the better said here. To this, Ren glanced around the room, noticing that only she, Ronald, and his lackeys were the only ones that remained. Most were likely on their way home or in their respective clubs. While some would have ordinarily been in the classroom at this hour, she was certain none wanted anything to do with Ronald and his group. He took a step towards her and began to speak. I'm well aware, Miss Bright, that you have come all the way from distant Liberl to be here. It's not unusual for students to transfer from afar for family reasons. But I hear in your case you came to Calvert just to learn in these hollowed halls. I cannot help but deeply admire your spirit and thirst for knowledge. Pure theatrics, this one. At the same time, I worry for you. Brilliant you may be, but living alone in a far-off land must be terribly lonely and a challenging affair. We all need someone to depend on in our lives, and that would be especially so in your situation. So if you don't mind me saying, Miss Bright, I believe you are in need of someone to look after you, to protect you. He does not know! At last he shut up, giving Ren a chance to respond. She scrutinized him closely. In short, you'd like me to join your circle of friends, correct? Ronald's smarmy smile broadened. His father was a senator in the Republic's parliament, meaning he held a significant amount of political power. His son used this to his full advantage. Ever since joining the academy, Ronald had used his father's name to form a faction of sorts among the students, forcibly building his reputation until he was the leading candidate for student council president in the election staged in half a month's time. His goal, Ren assumed, was to bring the hottest talk of the academy into his faction to further secure his chance of victory. I think you'll find that joining us would help you feel much more secure at home here. Or perhaps you don't yet appreciate just how much of a difference having someone like me backing you would make on the life of an exchange student. True, she mused inwardly. Being in a group of high social standing would make it easier for her to gather information. If she could leverage his father's connections to build more of her own, that would pay itself in dividends in the days to come. The pompous boy had no way of knowing the actual circumstances that brought her to Aramis, but his proposal was in fact very beneficial to her. She returned his smile with a modest one of her own as she answered, "You're kind to think so much of me, but I'm afraid I'll have to decline." Clear, unambiguous rejection. Ronald's lips were still curled into a smile, but he could not hide the twitch in his brow, nor could his lackeys hide their shock. They had, by all accounts, expected her to answer the opposite. "Are you sure you won't reconsider, Miss Bright? Surely someone as brilliant as yourself can see why accepting my offer would be in your best interests. I fear if you don't now, you may well come to regret it." The last words were a hair slower and deliberate to intimidate her. Ren, of course, was never going to fall for it. They do not know what she's capable of. I'll admit it's a tempting proposal, tempting enough to inspire one to consider helping a certain someone with the student council election. If only that someone weren't you. What did you just say? The sudden taunt caught him completely off guard, resulting in a flare of irritation escaping him. Ren, for her part, was unruffled by the change. I imagine you don't need me to explain why, but I'll be sure. I will, to be sure. I've been very aware that the threatening glares I always attract on the way to school every morning have been coming from all of you. They've been a constant in my life ever since just before the festival. All were flabbergasted by the statement. Their silence confirming what she said to be true. She continued. Now you have every right to regard me with caution. I'm well aware of how much I stand out despite my best efforts. Taking potential threats under your own wing is a strategically sound move, too. However, that your target was so easily able to see through your scheme shows everyone here just how inept you really are. I have better things to do than assist someone so incompetent and small-minded. Ooh, fucking drag his ass! With a shrug and a sigh in a somewhat dramatic fashion, Ren stood before Ronald, his shoulders trembling from rage. Good day to you all. Ren gave a courteous nod of acknowledgement before leaving the room, paying no mind to the wide eye and open slack jaw she left behind. So, Haggett ended up getting pretty beat up from another one of Mom's crazy jobs she- this is Tita. So Haggett ended up getting pretty beat up from another one of Mom's crazy jobs she threw at him. We did get some good data out of it though, but ouch. Your mom is always funny. That night in the dormitory, Ren and Tita were engrossed in deep conversation through their laptops. They sent in the Skype call. They sent in the Discord chat. But it's always the same old with all of you. I'm surprised there's anything of Agate left with how often you tell me she has him nearly facing death. You turn or Rhett. I know something that could spice things up. Maybe try adding a little romance to the mix, like a couple of bright-eyed lovebirds we know. Capital Bright. But we have agreed to go somewhere next week, so we're not in a complete rut. Well, isn't that something? The stairs to adulthood await you, my dear friend. Ren! Tita graduated from the branch campus in Erebonia just as Ren left for Calvard, leaving them no time to spend with one another in person. That wasn't ideal, of course, but from a hint of sadness came the habit of talking like this once a week so they could stay in each other's lives. Morning, Jeremy. How you doing? Happy Sunday. They discussed anything from their new lives and environments to the fruits of their research, occasionally stumbling into a serious topical matter or two along the way. Yeah, we end our reading arc. Sounds like a wait, who is this? It sounds like a legal confrontation between... It sounds like a legal confrontation between the Verne Company and Epstein Foundation is inevitable at this point. I know, I can't believe this is really happening. Both frowned at their screens. A recent development concerning the Calvardian industrial giant Verne Company had become a key source of concern for them of late. Yeah, who's at the Verne Company? We do not know. It began soon after Crossbow returned to normalcy after the Supreme Leader's takeover the previous year. Professor Erica Russell approached the Vern Company to propose that they join the West Sumerian Tech Union that she'd been hard at work forming. Oh yeah, that's right, they were talking about that. Did the Vern decline? And to no one's surprise, they refused. But before Erica and the rest of the engineers involved could even finish getting ready to go and change Vern's mind, something happened to make the Union the least of anyone's priorities. The independent development of a new generation of Orbiments and their generation's long partner in this subset of technology, the Epstein Foundation would no longer be a collaborator. The latter had been key supporters of Zemurian's Orbiment development and orbital technology in general since their very inception. Battle Orbiments were no exception to this. The Foundation had known their way around them since the very first model, drafting the incredible concept that had been used as a base ever since. Even the Reinford Company before the Battle of Jormungand had not thought to develop their Arcus models on their own, instead favoring to develop them in partnership with the Storied Institute. The announcement was quite simply unprecedented, and it sent shockwaves throughout the industry. The Epstein Foundation was also less than pleased about being cast aside in this manner. While there were certainly legal concerns regarding who owned the patent to this technology, the greater concern was that their stable position in the industry as a whole was now becoming unstable. They initially responded by attempting to resolve this through peaceful means, but when those attempts proved fruitless, it was reported that they were preparing for what could only be an ugly international legal dispute. I'd say Vern has the upper hand if they ever make it to court. Unlike their previous Ramdo armaments, the 6th generation is designed to set a whole new standard. All the main features are packed with new tech, with some new features still being kept under wraps. I wonder what those are. What could they be trying to develop that's important enough to ruin their relationship with the Foundation? Though I have heard about the government telling the Vern Company to focus more on weapons development. I have too. It sounds like they're planning to significantly revamp their military weaponry. The official story is that they're planning on slimming the military down, but if they're pairing that with the latest in weapons development, they're still just as powerful. Maybe more so. As part of the war ceasefire agreement, Erebonia was required to downsize their military, bringing it more in line with that of Calvard's. Yet if the Republic were to expand the capabilities of its military, this recently forced equilibrium and superpowers would quickly be broken. Whatever may be true, I've got a lot of questions I need to answer. Maybe it would be worth visiting the Vern Company's headquarters in Basel at some point. Wait, is that Ren? Maybe that was Ren, and then this is Tita. You haven't learned anything more about where Professor Hamilton is at the moment, right? Nothing new or concrete, at least. It sounds like she's continuing her research eastward, but I haven't heard anything more specific than that. Okay, so that's Tita. Nothing new or concrete, at least. It sounds like she is continuing her research eastward, but I haven't heard anything more specific than that. Mom and Grandpa haven't been lucky in contacting her either. I'm not surprised, since this area isn't very well connected, but it's still unfortunate. She's a lot more personable than Professor Schmidt, so having her on our side would help a lot. Oh, okay, so the woman on the right, that's wait, what was the name again? I lost it. But that's who they're looking for. Tita can only laugh. Yeah, there's a lot of worrying stories going around about PMCs and stuff like that. It makes me wonder if none of this would even be happening if she was still acting as an advisor for the Vern Company. Hamilton, there we go. Thank you. The deeper into the conversation they went, the more Tita could feel her spirit sinking. The political climate in Western Zemuria was unusually stable at the moment, with its nations basking prosperity. But she could not shake off the feeling that this peace was built over rotting wood, that it could all come crashing down with but the slightest provocation. This was becoming especially true in the tech world, as it had undergone rapid growth in recent years compared to other fields. So rapid, in fact, that no base could possibly sustain its sudden weight without cracks beginning to form. Try not to dwell too much in the worst case scenario, Tita. This peace may rest on the knife's edge, but there's still plenty we can do to preserve it. That's why I'm here right now, and that's also why you're working so hard. We could find a million problems in the world if we want, but pessimism isn't going to make them go away, right? The words filled Tita with the right amount of comfort she needed to hear in that precise moment. Yeah, I guess you're right. Thanks, Ren. They continued on, losing track of time as they talked well into the night. Before they knew it, the clock had struck 12. Well, it's getting really late, so I should probably be going. I'll talk to you soon, okay? Alright. Good night, Tita. Night. Oh! Tita suddenly remembered something. The exclamation stopped Bren just as she was about to end the call. Estelle and Joshua told me if you're doing okay in school. Those two always worry so much. You'd think I wasn't talking to them too. Oh. Wait, hold on. Those two always worry too much. You'd think I wasn't talking to them too. Okay, she's keeping in contact. We love that. She couldn't help but remember her interaction with Ronald after class. Brian quickly drove the thought from her mind. It wasn't worth dredging up. Tell them they can rest easy. Everything is fine. Good. They wanted me to let them know if you were being bullied so they could fly over and help. Ren could only sigh. Honestly, do you think I can't keep myself safe from a few schoolyard bullies? Actually, they said they were more worried about what you do to them than what they do to you. ... At her friend's silence, Tita could not help but burst out laughing. I worry about you too, obviously, but they're probably right. How awful of you. Even if that were happening to me, I wouldn't do half of what you're imagining. Not anymore, anyways. See, it's saying that kind of thing that makes people worry. I'm a lady now. I need the wow, why can't I read that? Magnanimity, right? I've always read it as like amenity and magnanimity to forgive the transgressions of others. I'm also trying to do what I can to avoid standing out too much at school. You can try, but I think that's always been a lost cause. Anyways, now I'm really going to go before I remember anything else. Say hi to Zen for me if you run into him. I'm planning to go see him when everything calms down here, so we'll do. I've been meaning to go see someone else I've been indebted to in the past too. By the time the two of them had finished talking and ended the call, one day had given way to the next. Yeah, how much is Zen clued in? Because like, we didn't really hear from that guy after the third. So like, does he know that they like caught Ren and like everything's good now? The morning dawned yet another day of school. However, just as she left her classroom in the main building at the start of lunch, she went to descend the staircase. She felt someone suddenly drawing near from behind her. Reflexively, she dodged out of the way. Did someone literally just try to fucking push our daughter down the stairs? Oh wait, hold on. A female student then entered her field of vision. She had lost her balance, her expression a mix of fear and surprise. She passed through the spot Ren had been moments before, but her momentum showed no sign of fading. Get caught? If someone didn't stop her, she was going to start tumbling down the stairs. Ren was quick to grab her and pull her close. Bochi Pry. She supported the girl's weight with one arm and all the grace of someone taking part in the ballroom dance, saving her from falling. Several students happened to witness the event unfold and could not help but elicit gasps of admiration. Noticing that the girl's eyes were still unfocused, Ren gently addressed her. Are you alright? You aren't hurt, are you? Finally realizing the situation she was in, the girl, whose face had become quite red, quickly straightened her posture in a fluster. Yes, I'm okay. You're Ren Bright from the next class over, aren't you? Thank you so much for helping me. You're very welcome. But I would have to caution you from losing your composure like that right next to the staircase. Do you have some really urgent business to take care of? The girl first frowned in response, then paused to think, then answered. Nothing I can think of. It's weird that even though it was probably my imagination, it felt like someone had pushed me from behind. Obviously no one here would do that, so I must have just bumped in, Obviously no one here would have done that, so I must have just bumped into someone by accident. She thanked her rescuers again before disappearing into the distance. The situation she deemed her imagination, however, lingered in Ren's mind. If I hadn't sensed something was amiss, both of us would have fallen down the stairs. We could have been badly hurt. Was it really just a coincidence, or was it deliberate by someone who wants to hurt me? If it was the latter... She didn't have anything to support this theory, but when it came, with it came a familiar sensation. The feeling of malicious stares focusing on her from the shadows. It took surprisingly little time for her suspicions to gain evidence. After finishing gym class the next day, Ren, Ren made for the next class and began preparing for her next lesson. As she did, she immediately noticed something was amiss. All of her textbooks had been glued shut with an excessive amount of adhesive. Bro, don't do this to her. Try as she did to open them, it was a lost cause to get even a single page. It was an obvious attempt to harass her. The culprits behind the act were equally obvious. Not far from where Ren was sitting, Ronald Griffith and his lackeys, whom she so memorably turned away 2 days prior, were snickering to themselves. Their eyes mockingly focused on Ren all the while. They're not even interested in hiding what they're like anymore. I'm sure at this point they want me to know who did it to intimidate me. This latest development also confirmed in her mind that they were responsible for trying to push her down the stairs the day before. What a pitiful sight they were. Because she refused to join their group, her existence was, in their eyes, now nothing more than a hindrance to Ronald's campaign for student council president. They would stop at nothing to either break her spirit and force her to join, or shame her into lowering her popularity among the student body. If it didn't matter that Ren had no interest in taking part in the election. After further inspecting the state of her textbooks, Ren's expression grew difficult to read. I think I can make them usable again, but not in what little time I have left before class. Yeah, even Patrick wasn't this bad to read? Yeah, fuck Ronald. We hate Ronald. All my homies hate Ronald. The bell soon chimed to signal the start of her lesson. Ren left her textbooks out on top of her desk, making no effort to open them throughout. Her instructor was, of course, less than pleased about this perceived slight against them, picking her to answer a question as an attempt to chide her poor behavior. Yo, but Ren's gonna get it right though, right? She's just like that? She's built different? Miss Bright, please read the next paragraph out loud for us. Ronald and his friends let out a series of pleased giggles at this, their minds delighting at the thought of a flustered Ren being told and humiliated in front of the entire class. Unless Ren just like scrounges up all of it and just fucking throws Ronald under the bus right now. But what transpired in reality played out very differently from their fantasies. Without missing a beat, Ren did exactly as she was told, reciting the selected paragraph she had been asked to read word for word. And all the while her textbook remained closed. She's built different! Did you memorize the entire book? Even the instructor could not hide their surprise. But of course, as a student of Aramis Academy, I would never dare to compromise in preparing for my lessons. Ren responded with such grace that she, of course, drew in more sighs and coos of admiration from both her instructor and peers alike. It was only Ronald and his posse who groaned with sullen expressions. The next incident came on Ren's way to school the next morning. She entered the school gates with the horde of other students and was just about to step into the building when she noticed a foul smell coming from above her. She looked upward, noticing a portion of the fencing surrounding the building's rooftop was falling directly above her. Other students noticed at the same time, letting out screams of horror and worries they could do nothing about it. I could get out of the way easily if I wanted to, but the fencing was over 2 arcs in length. She could escape unharmed, but the other students around her would likely not. It was a risk she was unwilling to take. Grasping the battle ornament hidden in her bag, she cried out, "Airstrike!" A sphere of wind formed in response to her incantation, flying upwards at high speed. She carefully controlled its power so that instead of sending the fence flying, it simply cancelled its momentum instead, allowing her to hop and catch it with ease. This was no accident. The smell makes it obvious. It was the distinct scent of a liquid extracted from a certain plant monster. One of its properties was to imitate the natural corrosion of metal, resulting in its application in certain solvents. This made the fence following a deliberate action the perpetrator had been trying to disguise as an accident, and with Ren having been the target of several malicious acts already, the culprit was clear. Again, she could feel the presence of those familiar, hateful stares pouring into her from the shadows. But again as well, they were not the only eyes on her. Yo, every chance they're trying to make Ren look bad, she's just like flipping it on him. That was awesome! Did you see that? Is there anything she can't do? Ren's quiet meditations was disrupted by a multitude of cheers and applause from all around. Only thing is, it's making her known, which she didn't want. As if she were a performer just about to leave the stage, she gave an elegant bow in response. This would not be the last time she endured harassment from Ronald's group, but each and every time they thought they bested her, she would handle herself with exemplary skill, their efforts only serving to make her more popular. The state of affairs continued for several more days before, seemingly out of patience, Ronald summoned Ren behind the school building after lessons were over for the day. He stood oppressively before her lackeys behind him with the composure he attempted to feign, now replaced by a plain vile anger. Let me give it to you straight, Ren Bright. You are an eyesore. Even that gentlemanly air he impersonated before was gone. Really? Well, that's not a very polite thing to say to a classmate. Don't try to act all cute and innocent. I put too much damn time and mirror into this building. I put too much damn time and mirror into building my position at this academy. But who's always at the center of attention instead? It's you. It's always you. It's like you're deliberately trying to sabotage my chances of success, and that's the last thing I can afford right now. The more livid Ronald became, the more unruffled Ren was in turn. You're only sabotaging yourself by setting me up to succeed over and over again. You are aware of that, aren't you? Had she not been forced to defend herself against him over and over again, she would not have received nearly as much attention. This being pointed out caused Ronald to return an audible tut of frustration. Who cares about how it happens? The point is this. This has gone on long enough, so I'm gonna have to ask you to step off the stage for a while. What do you mean? Ronald seemed to present some of his initial cool from when they first talked as he answered. Oh, I mean something very simple. You just won't come to school until the election is over. And if I refuse? To this he raised a hand, and in response his lackeys stepped forward to surround her. The boys were unusually well built for their age, showing off their hulking forms in hopes of intimidating her. Bro! Run this back a couple of years, they'd be dead on the ground. Refusing is not an option, I'm afraid. You aren't going to oblige me willingly. If you aren't going to oblige me willingly, we will just have to make it so you can't come to school for a while. His lackeys cracked their knuckles dramatically to clarify their leader's intent. Well, that's no good. I think we both know that would constitute a grave violation of the school's rules. Something about her inflection caused them to mistake her commentary as showing a hint of fear, further fueling their desire to dominate the situation. No one's watching in a place like this, and even if someone did happen to see him, my father's a politician. He can make it go away. If they don't willingly choose to ignore what they saw in deference, to my position, that is. Everyone at the academy seems to already know their place, you see. Everyone except you. His smile then was so unpleasant that a sigh escaped Ren. Oh, I think you're the one who doesn't know your place. I don't want to be rough with him after what Tita said, but he needs to be taught a good, hard lesson. Ronald continued on, oblivious to what was running through his apparent victim's mind. Now do as I say! His lackeys drew closer, readying to seize her. I'll keep it mild, but I still want this to hurt for them, just enough to set them on the right track. I don't think Estelle and Joshua would object to that. But just as she was about to act... Stop this at once! Is this gonna be the girl that she saved at the stairs? That's what I'm pre-aiming. A girl's shout could be heard from the direction of the school building. She was, of course, not shouting at Ren. And who are you? Ronald was visibly irritated. Though the girl appeared to be visibly nervous, she continued to stand her ground. I didn't mean to listen in, but I couldn't help but overhear what was happening here. You can't go through with this. What you're doing is wrong. The girl stepped forward till she was directly in front of Ren to protect her from her schoolyard bullies. As she did, the light revealed sleek, dazzling blonde hair that shimmered much like the sunshine above. So, I've heard, I don't know if they outright say it here, but when I went to AX and I was talking to people, I went to the panels and stuff, I think this is supposed to be Agnes, right? Agnes Daybreak? Ren recognized her to be the first-year student who lived in the dormitory next to her. They weren't close to one another, and at most they only exchanged polite greetings with one another as they passed each other in the hall. She always seemed like a quiet, polite young woman with a good upbringing, however, not the type whose eyes would glow with resolve as she put her well-being on the line for someone else's. Ren was surprised by this, as was Ronald, though he was less than impressed. He never fathomed that another student would dare to resist him. One thing he did sense was that her resistance was little more than a brave front. With excitement at the thought of stripping that front bare, he grew a sadistic smile and addressed her. Is it now? Well, how fortunate for me that I have you to show me the error of my ways. Ren can wait. You're a first year, I assume. I'm gonna need to give you a lesson in just how right and wrong works in our society. Upon his signal, his lackey shifted to surround their new target over Ren. She began to tremble as danger closed in on her, but still, she didn't move. Don't you dare. This time, it was Ren who spoke up. I'll give you what you want, so don't you dare touch her. But... You sure about that? She wasn't planning on that response, but Ronald was more than happy to have his win in any form. I'll stay away from school for a while. That's what you want, right? But then you... The experience of studying abroad has been rather tiring for me, so maybe I do need some rest. Ren's voice was gentle in the attempt to assuage the kind girl's concerns. Ronald, meanwhile, made no attempt to hide the joy he felt at victory, laughing heartily with all the glee of a spoiled child. Good! Now everyone knows their place here. I see no reason to harm either of you now that I've got what I want. Consider yourselves lucky now that I've decided to let you go. Ronald turned away and made to leave, his lackeys following suit. Good day to you then. When we next meet, the school will be all mine. And then he was gone. With only the girls left behind in the school building, the younger of the two looked up at her senior, concern welling in her expression. I really am alright. You're very kind to worry. Ren's smile was one of genuine kindness. From then on, Ren did indeed stop coming to school, citing illness as the official reason behind her absence. The students then gathered in the Academy's auditorium several days later for the long-awaited Student Council election. RMS Academy as a whole placed great importance on the autonomy of its students, and as such, the Student Council exercised an unusual amount of power. It also weighed upon them a massive amount of responsibility, such as being the sole planner for the Academy's festival, a symbol and celebration of spring in the capital. This, however, also led to the position being a major status symbol, even long after graduation. All of this was why a large number of students put their name forward to become the Student Council president every year. Yet this year, a great majority of the students' promising candidates dropped out under mysterious circumstances, leaving only Ronald and the others associated with them on the ballot. Couldn't exactly boast about winning by default. Ronald and his supporters sat in the rest area, chuckling amongst themselves in the whole affair. Perhaps his name wasn't the only one on the ballot, but none of the others had any certifiable campaigning, meaning his election was positively assured. Eventually, the time came for him to give his speech. It was a compelling one. He played the part of a respectable young gentleman as he delivered it, speaking with the same silver tongue he inherited well from his father. There were some moments where he failed to hide his arrogance, but as no one else had prepared a speech to give, this was not the blow to his campaign it otherwise would have been. Now, if you could turn your eyes to the screen. The screen he spoke of was at the back of the auditorium. Yo, Ren could totally get their revenge right here. It was a rather notable feature to have in a school building, to have anywhere, and was installed several years prior for use in lectures and to display recreational films. One nation had yet to indulge in such luxuries, or other natures had yet to indulge in such luxuries, showing just how far ahead Calvert was in its technology. Up until now, students had used it to display photographs during their speeches, but Ronald intended to take it another step further. He wanted to share a promotional video, and not a simple makeshift, a self-produced one that might ordinarily be presented by an amateur. Not a self-produced one that might be ordinarily presented by an amateur, but rather a professional work he paid a considerable amount of mira for. Its quality was genuinely impressive. His victory was written in stone, but this he knew would cement it that much more. Convinced this would serve as the perfect beginning for his ascension to the top of the social hierarchy, he started the video. Brother does not know that it is not going to be the video he expects. The musical number it played was rousing, fitting. What followed was then was Ronald appearing on screen. So how much mira do you want for supporting me? I can make it worth your while. What? The video playing before them was not the one intended. Rather than an inspirational show of what he could bring to the student body, it was a recording of him buying off one of his opponents just days before. As hushed whispers of confusion spread through the auditorium, the next clip played. If you know what's good for you, you will withdraw your candidacy right now. And the only thing you'll be president of is a hospital bed. Next was an equally unexpected scene of Ronald intimidating another candidate and withdrawing from the race. As it continued, Ronald realized what was going on. Someone put out there had replaced his carefully prepared video with another. Wait, someone out there had replaced, yeah. The initial hesitant whispers exploded into loud enough murmurs that he had to raise his voice over them in an attempt to quell the situation. This is all a forgery! Someone is attempting to frame me! But just at the moment, as if waiting for his cries of denial, a girl's voice resounded from the auditorium's entrance. I'm afraid it's all genuine. Her voice rang out with a wonderful clarity, charming all who heard it. She ran her hand through her... Ren. I'm afraid it's all entirely genuine. She ran her hand through her violet hair and flipped it back as she talked and walked slowly towards the stage. That's our goat! Bribing potential threats, blackmailing, threatening, even executing violence against others, and many other cases of bullying beside. You are guilty on every count, Ronald Griffith. Before anyone could fully understand what was happening, this student was on the stage and staring Ronald down. All eyes were fixed upon this elegant figure. Indeed, without any effort at all, she had the air of a protagonist from some epic tale, making her a long-awaited appearance. Damn it, Renbright! Must you insist on getting in my way at every turn? He growled through a sheer sheet of anger. In contrast, the recently absent Ren responded with brilliant composure. You are the one getting in the way of the fair running of this important election. Your countless crimes have made a mockery of this whole process. Ren then turned from Ronald to the rest of the student body as she continued to list his crimes alongside the still running video. Some elicited frowns, others sympathy, others complete silence, but by the time she was finished, all were united in a single, overpowering emotion. Anger. It brings me no joy to say this about a fellow student, but I'm afraid it must be said. Ronald Griffith, you do not deserve to even attend this prestigious academy, much less be the president of its student council. Similar censure from the other students followed in rapid succession. Yeah, she's right! Stop ruining our academy! You've gone too far! Ren's accusations wasn't the only reason for their anger. The students of Aramis had long loathed Ronald's oppressive behavior. They only hadn't spoken out before because they were afraid of his father's powers. Now that they realized he could be stopped, their anger had reached an explosive boiling point. Ronald suddenly found himself at the center of a torrent of abuse. He looked to his lackeys for support, but even they refused to meet his gaze. Birds of a feather, right? It then dawned on him just how fragile all he thought he built was. Rage gave way to an instant deep despair and casting a glare of pure hatred towards Ren. Ronald hurriedly sprinted out of the auditorium. Only when he was completely out of sight did the air erupt with cheers of joy. In the end, addressing the aftermath of the election took long enough that by the time she left for the gate, it was already evening. Yet even with how late it was, instead of walking her usual route home, she stepped off the path to an entirely unoccupied park. How does this work? No one's going to interrupt us here, so how about you come out? In response to her words, Ronald emerged before her for the first time since he ran away earlier in the day, with 10 or so companions in tow. These men weren't his usual lackeys, but instead, vicious figures with dark expressions and gaudy clothing. They were clearly not students of the academy. More than likely, they belonged to some local gang. You don't keep very good company outside of school now, do you? With how they're dressed up, I assume you must be off to a party or something. I'm gonna wipe that smug smirk right off your face for good, Renbright. My dazzling future in politics was guaranteed, but now you've gone and ruined everything. What am I supposed to say to my father now? That's your problem, not mine. Or are you so small a man that you can't own up to the consequences of your own mistakes? Not a second passed between his outburst and the manner in which she snapped back. causing his temper to grow twice as vile. That's it! I don't care what it takes! You're going to pay for thinking you could cross me and get away with it! Have at her! There won't be any consequences for going too far! My father will see to that! The men sprung into motion upon Ronald's signal, but what followed made them doubt their eyes. Ronald could not understand what just unfolded before him. His eyes relayed the information well enough, but his mind rejected it completely. The second after he ordered his new lackeys to attack, Ren had produced a monstrously sized black and gold scythe from thin air. This itself was beyond comprehension, but it wasn't the last thing to be so. The scene was like a cat toying with a powerless cornered mouse, except in this shocking case, Ren was the cat, his men were the mice. They surrounded her at first, and yet all it took was a single swing of her conjured weapon to cause most of them to collapse to the ground. In less than 10 seconds, their confidence had crumbled with their bodies. The mice made to scurry as fast as they could, but the cat gleefully gave chase. There were even moments where she let a few think they'd gotten away, only for her to immediately close the gap between them. It was only after she was bored that she would knock them unconscious like the rest. Then she would seek delight in her next hunt. Like heavy sacks of potatoes, the men fell off one by one. One by one, one by one, until only Ren and Ronald were left. This can't be happening. The young man was still struggling to come to terms with what he just witnessed as Ren stretched her limbs like a bored child still gearing up to play. Amateurs, every last one of them. I thought I could at least have a little bit of fun. But don't you worry, I didn't actually slaughter them. She turned her gaze from a spectacle of her own creation to Ronald. From the spectacle of her own creation to Ronald. That's fucking terrifying. Would you be open to giving me a little more entertainment, perhaps, Ronald? Ronald twitched in fear at the mention of his name. In this moment, she was now nothing more than a beast in human skin. Stay away from me! My father in Parliament, you know. My father's in Parliament, you know. Try anything on me and you'll regret it! Her response was an expression of pure pity, before tossing what appeared to be a magazine at his feet. It's one of today's tabloids. You might find its contents relevant. What? At first, he was baffled by this shift, but the second he peeked at the cover, his face went pale. Representative Griffith, suspected of bribery and connections to organized crime, read the headline in giant, punchy lettering. There's a whole special feature on your dearest daddy, complete with evidence. It mentions that the CID is going to be conducting an investigation as well, so this may be the last day you can say he's in Parliament. My condolences. No! So visceral was his shock at the news that the simple word was all he could muster. Even then, Ren wasn't finished. So now that he's been removed from the equation, I ask you again. Would you be open to giving me a little more entertainment? She edged closer and closer, scythe in hand and a sadistic smile lacing her lips. Ronald tried to retreat in fear before tripping over a rock and falling hopelessly on his backside. All he could do was watch her as though she were the Grim Reaper. Tears and snot streaming down his face. Be a doll and play with me, then you'll understand why they used to call me the Angel of Slaughter. She raised her scythe above her head and ready to swing it downward before realizing what she said. Oh, dang. Oops, a grown woman wouldn't play with dolls, would she? And here I thought I could better control my childish glee. She covered her mouth with her free hand, blushing with feminine modesty with her slip-up. None of this was behavior befitting the proper lady she wanted to reflect. After composing herself, she turned her attention back to her prey, only to see that he was already unconscious. Finished? As she left the park, a calm young man called out to her. I certainly am. Ren met eyes with a brown-skinned young man leaning covertly against one of the trees. It was safe to assume he had witnessed the entire affair unfold. He glanced inside the park for a brief moment, before speaking with slight but genuine admiration. You really are something. In what way? In every way. Even if I were more struck by the hacking ability of the famous kitty. Wait, hold on. Even if I was more struck by the hacking abilities of the famous kitty than the combat prowess of the infamous Angel of Slaughter. Still hard to believe he managed to find dirt on his bigwig dad that easily. Ren's response was matter of fact, showing no sign of his praise had gone to her head. Yeah, he knows Kitty. He's there. He might be a member of the CID. Maybe, since Ren tipped off the CID, they wanted to find the source of the tip. Most people just aren't as cautious about cybersecurity as they ought to be. Understandable with how new most are to it. Of course, it isn't nearly as easy as this was when you're dealing with the leading corporations and politicians at the top of the food chain. You made it sound. Oh, wait, hold on. That's the guy. You made it sound like you've tried before. Maybe I have. Ren's smile was both cryptic and darling. Oh, unless he's a reporter. I've been more impressed with you. You're quick to write a piece that's scathing while also finding me exactly the proof I needed. I'm glad Grace introduced us. Whoa! Just doing my job. The man's name was Dingo. He was a professional reporter for a tabloid. He was extremely capable at his job, very well connected, and held a reputation for never shying away from danger. After being introduced to one another by Grace Lynn, he and Ren made a deal with one another just a few days prior. Terms were simple. Dingo would provide Ren with proof of Ronald's misdemeanors. Ren would use her hacking abilities to provide evidence of his father's crimes. Both were now reaping the rewards of the other's success. Wait, let me see. Though I'll admit I did get some help from a friend, he was none too pleased about being asked to look into a scummy politician's equally scummy son. But he pulled through. Oh, you have all kinds of connections, don't you? She did sense someone other than Dingo was acting on her behalf while she was off school, but she wasn't sure who that someone was. This curious sensation regarding their identity remained as she continued this conversation. I'm surprised you didn't meet any resistance in running that story. Just goes to show how big of a fan the government was of Griffith. They left him alone because he didn't actively oppose the current president's party. But from the CID's perspective, that chance to take him down was about as good as it was gonna get. That does sound like something Miss Taito Master over there would do. Can't say I like the feeling of being used by her, but oh well. Dingo then made a curious observation. I have to wonder why you went to such lengths to get rid of a small fry like him. Did he really bother you that much? Ren glanced briefly at Ronald, still collapsed on the ground of the park, before shrugging her shoulders dismissively. Not in the least. I didn't intend for this to go as far as it did. I only want to teach him enough of a lesson so he'd leave me alone, but it was then that the younger student who tried to save her came to mind. Yeah. Nip it at the bud. Not enough to just stop at Ren, but everyone else too. I think the students deserve a much better student council president than him. She let out a titter that was most refined. As Ren expected, the allegations led Ronald's father to resign from Parliament, while he resigned from Aramis Academy. The group of students who exerted power over the student body with his backing vanished overnight. As a result, bidding peace to return to the grounds for the first time in too long. One thing, however, came from this that Ren had not expected in the least. Did everyone vote for her as student council president for how she acted on the stage? Here are all the documents relating to the next month's budget. The student council new president accepted the documents from the blonde-haired first year in charge of general affairs, perusing them straight away. After Ronald dashed from the auditorium on the day of the election, most of those in his group who put down their name dropped out in a timely fashion. Voting still took place even then, but once all was said and done, nearly 70% of the votes cast were disqualified. This was because they were all in favor of someone who never had put her name on the ballot, Ren Bright. Aramis Academy was known for how little its staff interfered with the many liberties it gave its students, But this time, the staff was clearly concerned that dissatisfaction with Ronald was going to present dire problems in the future. The teachers then chose to directly negotiate with Ren, and in the face of such fervent demand, she reluctantly accepted the position of student council president. None of her duties posed a challenge to her, but she accepted it. She had completely and utterly failed her initial goal of avoiding attention. I wonder if this is how the Thor's Branch campus first student council president felt when he was elected. Even I couldn't believe it when Tita told me. Alright, it is what it is. I suppose I can just make use of the best I can. Oh, wait. Wrong button. Sunlight beamed in the student council room. The blonde-haired girl and two of her friends struggled with the new workload they were adjusting to. As Ren sat there, ears open to random talk and the occasional grumble, a thought crossed her mind. She had no end of real-world worries, the problems arising from rapid technological development, the society's next move, the ominous winds of change blustering over Calvard. But despite all of these, she wanted to enjoy her simple time here while she could. Let's say we get this work done so we can celebrate with a tea party, The arrival of spring was just now a distant memory, even if summer had yet to come. Nothing particularly spectacular about this time. It was just another ordinary, beautiful, bright afternoon. We let her have it. An unconventional student. Whoa! Oh! That's new. That wasn't there earlier. So these two. I guess I'll read Forward Sword in Hand next. But let me take a bite of food. Yeah, it's a lot of reading today. Return to the Garden is literal. Was it something else in like the pen translation? Oh, wait! That's what you meant. Okay. I totally forgot that we're in the garden. I got like so caught up in all the reading. I was just like, oh yeah, that's the story. I was expecting to say something like, just like go back. Alright. Man, I get myself hiccups. I gotta lock in, it'll be gone. One weird trick I know about hiccups. I don't know if it actually works. But I feel like if I breathe in funny and inhale and like consume the air, it like goes away. Nope, hold on. No, I can't do it anymore. I don't know how I did it before. I'm just gonna drink this water weird. I think we're good. Damn it. Alright, we're good. Yeah, we beat it. Final one. Final one, and we're pretty much fully done with Reverie. Literally the last things I could do would be Vantage Masters, I think. And maybe a couple like the Palm Party extra foes. September, year 1207 of the Septian calendar. I cannot accept. I was not one to mince words. The hulking bear of a veteran bracer, Zin Vathek, could not hide his disappointment, puffing out his bottom lip with a sigh as he stood before me. Not again. You gotta resign yourself to the inevitable one of these days. I've been indebted to this man, who was as capable as he was kind, since my first days in the guild. Truly, I didn't wish to be a source of vexation for him, but the wish alone was not enough. I have neither the experience nor skill to be worthy of A rank, so I cannot accept your recommendation. Bracers are assigned ranks based on their strength and achievements, with A rank being the highest on paper at least. Its members are the very face of its beloved organization. And as such, ranks are a metaphorical badge of honor to be worn with pride. So how I received multiple recommendations for the most prestigious rank in 6 months? I spared no effort in working to hone my craft in the years I joined after school, and certainly I wouldn't classify myself as a doe-eyed newcomer, but to have my name among the greats of the guild? Absolutely not. But after turning down my first recommendation, a second one had come from the guild's headquarters in Le Mans. If you ask me, you got both in spades. There's something else making you lead towards a no? Zin's awkward smile told me he had been Zin's awkward smile told me he'd been pressured by headquarters to persuade me. I folded my arms. Setting aside whether you're overestimating me or not, which I believe you are, there is. I would very much like to not stand out in any more than I already do. I've been getting offers to be a model, to star in films. It's been, frankly, exhausting forcing them to give up. Now, what do you think would happen if I were to accept a promotion? I'll be neck deep in the same mess all over again. Okay, that makes sense, but sorry. You're a 1-2 punch in the beauty and bronze department. Trying to lay low is a lost cause. With the kind of fans you're getting, maybe you should consider the silver screen after all. Who knows? You might walk away with an award for the film festival. Zin's laugh was hearty in contrast to my unamused frown. Much as I respected him, he could do with showing a little more decorum. It's not funny. I understand being in the public's eye to some extent is inevitable, and I've accepted it, but I'm a bracer, not an entertainer. Wasn't trying to be funny though. You gotta find a way to let off some steam. You get a break when you need. Hold on, blood nose. Wasn't trying to be funny though. You gotta find a way to let off some steam, or you're gonna break when you need to put together. You need to be put together the most. Happens to the workaholics like you more often than you think. I didn't think I was pushing myself as much as he implied, but I also couldn't deny there was a nugget of truth to what he said. We're getting off topic. Just why is the headquarters so desperate for me to become an A-rank bracer? I can't see the logic behind it. Well, you see, starting with what you know, the reparations from Erebonia have beefed up our economy this year, so all kinds of new investments are pouring in from across the continent. Now, I'm no economist, but people go where the money's at. And where people go, conflict follows. That's how it is. I saw where he was going from there, electing to expand upon the arrest myself. So now we have disputes between megacorporations and a stark increase in Jaeger activity. These are in addition to the known growth of private military companies and increased tension between mafias. You got it. You think it's bad now? It's only gonna get worse from here. 2 hours, 0 gameplay? That's right. We have done nothing but read. I should have named this the reading stream. Thank you for stopping by though, appreciate it. Yeah, all our gameplay is in our last ones. We had hella gameplay. That's why Le Mans wants to up security here while promoting our rising star. You. They see it as good PR for the guild and a deterrent to any potential threats that are thinking about stepping out of line. Yeah, it's a good look for the guild to have a bunch of high ranks just around. People won't fuck around. Perhaps I was more vaguely aware of their goal in using me than I wanted to admit. This didn't make hearing the answer any more satisfying. If they have you asking me to play my part, then surely they would have asked you to play your part already. Oh, right, cause isn't Zin also, doesn't he want to always deny S rank? Or am I thinking of someone else? Yeah, you've been recommended for S rank, haven't you? If you know of a better deterrent than having an S rank in Calvard, then I'd like to hear it. Zin scratched the back of his head awkwardly upon my statement. I just don't think I'm up there with someone like Cassius Bright. S isn't even an official rank, and even if it was, just look at me. You think a guy like me is a picture-perfect advertisement for the guild? Have fun, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you dropping by. We will be finishing Reverie today. I think you have the skills, achievement, and build to be one, yes. A curt, quick response. Alright, point made. Can't force you to take the recommendation, and I'm not about to be the hypocrite, just let me know if you change your mind, okay? He said, if you will be A rank, I will be S rank. With that, the conversation came to an end, and the guild's bracers gathered to begin a routine meeting of delegating open requests. This is how I preferred things. It was better to stay like this. There was a point when I wanted to be something more. I can no longer remember when that was. Sometime during my childhood it happened, I'm sure. I just recall realizing how small the world truly was. So I prayed and longed to become someone I was not. It was around high school when I thought I became that someone. Those years were unforgettable. I'll never forget the unexpected reunion that was had there, nor the priceless treasure I had gained. I truly thought I'd gotten closer to who I wanted to be. But in the end, it was just wishful thinking. My hand, once held, was now empty, and I was still a nobody. But I refused to stand still. I grew unrelenting in following the new path I chose for myself, ignoring my family's objections. My motivations had changed, however, I no longer possessed that girlhood desire of becoming something more, of becoming someone. I just needed to keep moving, however aimless that movement was. Well, aren't we looking gorgeous today? With a whimsical wink, a familiar bartender welcomed me to his establishment. He was a tall, affable man who lived by his own rules and never hesitated to lend a helping hand to others. He reminded me much of the Crossbell City branch receptionist from the few times I visited from work. So kind of like Michelle? The place was nearly empty today. I sat down on the counter, seated furthest from the door as he approached. The usual, sweetheart? I stopped by here after a hard day's work on occasion, and when I did, I always ordered coffee and a light snack. This was not a coffee and a light snack kind of day. I want something with alcohol, even beer will do. Not at all fazed by the vagueness of my order, he walked away and started preparing my drink. It wasn't long before he returned and placed an elegant glass in front of me. I think this is a little more you than beer. It was a beautiful cocktail composed of two colors, a clear blue like that of a priceless pearl, and a calming jade. No doubt he could tell how disquieted my heart was and was trying to soothe it in its own way. I thanked him inwardly before... I almost dropped my drink. Before daring to broach my other reason for coming. Have you learned anything more about what I asked? Apart from being a skilled bartender, he was also a well-known informant. He was extremely well connected to the guild, the press, and even the criminal underworld. But he was very careful not to overstep his bounds with that last one. Indeed, I found him to be a valuable source when needed. Wish I could say, not even Dingo has any promising leads. Still, I think you've got your eyes on the right district. It's only a matter of time before you get smoked out. I see. Since the guild's investigation turned up nothing, I was hoping he would better point me in the right direction. But it seemed this was going to be a lot harder than I hoped for. Things will work out. Just brace yourself and keep at it a little bit at a time. That also applies to that cocktail. It's a strong one, so don't drink it all at once. Shimmer past quick time event, we save the drink, yes sir. I tilted the glass delicately between my fingers as he stepped away, my mind continuing to wade through the case I was following. There had been a stark increase in illegal drugs on the market, not just any drugs either, but ones of the highly addictive, dangerous variety. Payaway, who effectively ruled over the criminal underworld in Calvard, ordinarily limited their proliferation in the market as part of their rules. Limiting the number of drugs was, of course, far from the ideal elimination of them, but none could deny that the Syndicate's actions have brought some semblance of order to where chaos often reigns supreme. Yet the past few years had seen a worrying number of criminal groups rebelling against these carefully curated rules. One of these groups was surely behind the change in the market. And all of this held a presumed connection to two missing people. The guild and police had been tasked with searching for two children below the age of 10, a boy and his younger sister. They simply left the house one day and had not been seen since. Evidence suggested they came from a perfectly ordinary family on good terms with one another, so the likelihood of them running away was slim. We muled over the suspicion that they had been abducted by ransom early on, but not a single demand was made following their disappearance, so it was quickly ruled out. Despite a healthy amount of manpower that was coming from both sides, neither the guild nor the police had yet to find them. That said, the search so far had not proved entirely fruitless. Their last known location was fortunately established, and it was, unfortunately, a popular site for illicit drug trade. The working theory from there became that the siblings witnessed a transaction and were held captive by the criminal parties involved as a result. If that held true, then the longer it took our parties to find them, the greater the danger their lives were in. The abductors wouldn't do anything right away. Murder was sure to leave trace evidence behind, but it was only a matter of time before they resorted to that or trafficking abroad to be rid of them. With each passing second, the odds of the children being returned unharmed were dropping to zero. At the same time, all of this was pure speculation on our part based on a single established location. For all we knew, this had nothing to do with the criminal underworld at all. The potential dangers thrown around made inaction an agonizing task, but if there was no evidence to go on, action was impossible. We could forcibly arrest any suspicion based on sight, and make them talk should we wish it. But that would be a direct violation of Guild's code and its founding principles. So, she sounds like she's gonna get acquainted with a certain Spriggan to get this job done. The Braces Guild always sought to be an ally of the people first and foremost, so resorting to criminal acts to obtain evidence was out of the question. If only this strict adherence to our code didn't stop us from being able to resolve so many crimes, thereby putting the people we swore to protect in danger. It was the ultimate impasse. As I found myself pondering on this impossible dilemma, the Bracers placed themselves in, a familiar face came to mind. He was a childhood friend with blue-tinged, unkempt hair. Though we had lost contact with one another some years ago, he one day returned to the city as suddenly as he left it. Soon after starting up a peculiar profession that skirted the line of legality to a dangerous degree. The kind of profession that could easily involve himself in the affairs of many unscrupulous individuals, or so I believed. Just what did that idiot think he was doing? He walked out of my life without warning and walked back in much the same. I'd spent so much time searching for him, I knew our reunion would be an awkward one based on how we parted. But for him to return after all this waiting, all that searching, and dive into some questionable enterprise so different from my own was almost too much to bear. It gave rise to many concerns as a bracer, and many more concerns as a friend. And the one that bothered me the most was... why hadn't he come to see me? Did he have any idea how worried I was about him? How worried I am about him? Irritation building, I took a large gulp of my cocktail. The alcohol only fanned the flames of anger burning in my heart. They burned brighter and brighter still, becoming a dazzling white that projected countless transient images of the past. Then, just as quickly as I had flared, my anger faded in an instant, replacing itself with a very different emotion altogether. Why did you leave me? The words slipped from my mouth without me realizing it, making me feel downright pitiful once they were said. If someone were to see me in this state. Still haven't moved on, I see. A familiar but unexpected voice called out to me, causing me to jump slightly from surprise. I quickly regained my composure. I just have a few choice words I'd like to say. My response feigned calmness as best I could. I couldn't help but think I had more than a few choice words, really, but following up with what would aid my annoyance in a way, I would rather not further. I imagine you have more than a few. Of course, he would see right through me. Is this him? The bespectacled man that sat down next to me, as though our running into each other was no coincidence. Wait, bespectacled. He was another childhood friend of both myself and the one I was lamenting over. Someone who followed a remarkably different career path from either one of us. If it's still bothering you that much, why not just go and see him? You already have his address by now, surely. How could I, with how much time has passed? As I mumbled my response meekly, I thought I could hear the man next to me chuckle. Well then, I suppose there's no need to rush things. With your line of work, I'm sure your paths will cross naturally enough in due time. I didn't expect that kind of response. You make it sound so romantic. Lest you've forgotten, I don't struggle with expressing what's in my heart the way he does. Now, since we're here, how about a toast? I'll make your next one non-alcoholic. And lest you've forgotten, I can handle my liquor just fine, thank you very much. We then spent the rest of our time reminiscing about the past. It had been too long since we were able to just sit and talk like this. It wasn't that he and I had become estranged, but both of our jobs made it a trying task to meet even at the best of times. By the way, I've heard you turned down becoming an A-rank bracer again. Of course that wouldn't escape the CID's ears. Damn, wait, so that's kind of a cool friend group to set up. Because you've got like the A-rank bracer, you've got the CID, and then you've also got like the Spriggan. The trio. The information itself wasn't confidential, but he already knew something, however unofficial it was. However unofficial it was entirely typical of him. The Bracers Guild focused on protecting civilians, while the CID focused solely on the needs of the president in office. The groups were neither enemies nor allies, they simply had very different goals, where work was concerned. I know it isn't my place to tell you to accept the offer, however. He paused before resuming, his tone becoming markedly more serious. The times we live in demand a new hero, that much is clear. I had no idea what a realist like him was trying to say by implying I was a hero. Before I could inquire further, he changed the subject like it was, that was likely... Hold on, I can't read. But before I could inquire further, he changed the subject that was likely what brought him to find me in the first place. Now, if you don't mind, I have something that will be of interest to you regarding those missing children. My eyes widened from the unexpected change. He continued. My fucking nose, dude, I wish I didn't sneeze earlier. Hold on. Okay. We've identified the group that made the district their turf, as well as have compelling evidence of a crime taking place. You may proceed as you like in cooperation with the police. I couldn't believe it. On a fine silver platter, he'd given me just the cause to act. And since the information came from the CID, there was no reason to doubt its veracity. I felt it. I was on the verge of rekindling my girlhood desires. All I'd done till now was follow life where it was taking me. And yet here I found myself before a new path that could lead to that someone I once wanted to be. This deviation terrified me. What if it led me to losing someone again? What if it ended in more pain? My fear begged me to stay idle. I was a fragile human being at my core. I knew it well. It made me wish I was anything but. It inspired me to take up the sword and rebel against any whispers of weakness, and I played the part admirably on the surface. But if I were forced to face cruel reality in the future, I wondered, would my heart be able to take it? As I sidestepped to the left, I shifted my center of gravity and unleashed a flurry of slashes against my first foe, using that momentum to thrust both myself and my blade towards my second. Two low-ranking mobsters fell to the ground. They were members of a mafia I'd been chasing, and right now, I was in the thick of their den of operations. My friend gave me the guild and police their excuse we needed to take a more direct stance against our targets. His information was vague, however, so we still had to discern their precise location on our own. I, Zin, and several other braces agreed it would be the best to split up forces and attack several locations in unison for this part of the mission. Based on what just transpired, it appeared my location was the lucky winner. There's the intruder! Hey, I've seen her before! She's from the paper! Two more reinforcements arrived, but I was hardly going to give them time to act. I raced forward, swinging my sword twice as I passed them, and they fell before they could even raise their weapons. I advanced. Mobsters appeared in droves, presumably. Presumably word of my arrival had already spread. There she is! She's that bracer! Word's been going around about it! Well, damn it! What if the immovable's here too? Don't be checking shit, it's one woman! We can take care of her! And they charged me en masse, at least 10 of them, with more reinforcements on their way from farther inside the building. Forcing my way through with how many they had and the numbers was risky. I knew the sensible thing to do would be to wait for the other braces to show, but I also had to reconsider what if my waiting afforded the Mafia the time to wield the children as hostages. Weighing the two options, I concluded that whatever reduced the chances of that happening was worth the cost. I needed to push and settle this, now. Besides, I believed I had nothing to fear from this pitiful group as they were. Were they seasoned combat veterans, they could have used their numerical advantage to implement complex formations, corner me. They did no such thing. The amateurs. And they dared to believe that they held a candle the Heiwei martial arts? In the face of one of my experiences, their bloated size was more of a hindrance than a help. They wouldn't be able to utilize half of their potential against me. I first had to position myself and them appropriately. If I could ensure the gun-toting wielders among them were in each other's line of fire while rounding up the close-range fighters to a single spot, they would soon have bigger worries. Friendly fire. Their vulnerabilities would then spell my victory as I cut them down. 1 down. 2 down. The precious seconds after defeating a foe were the most advantageous. Just as a man had fallen, I was onto another before they had time to adjust to my incoming blade. There was no pattern to who was next by design. I chose my targets with stunning erraticism, throwing them into complete disarray as more collapsed to the ground. 3 down. 4. I would go around them in a wide circle. I would move between them, while remaining ever aware of any surprise assaults at my back. I waded through them till I encountered the ones farthest back. These ones never even considered I would be able to reach them. They were spread so carelessly. The men took up their arms with newly alert panic strewn across their faces, but their fate was already sealed. They were powerless as I closed the gap between them. 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7. Boy, she cool with it though. With over half their numbers down, the remaining mobsters were quickly losing their will to counter. Some attacked out of adrenaline-induced desperation, calculating their next move so poorly that they fell into my long-set trap and accidentally attacked themselves. At this point, the battle was as good as final. All I had to do was continue taking them down until I was the last one standing. There were smaller groups I encountered on my way to the building, through the building, but I was able to disable them with little effort. The path they opened up for me eventually led me to their leader. He was a middle-aged fellow, pacing restlessly around an unpleasantly gaudy room. Until I entered, he twitched in fear upon the very sight of me. Why are you here? Where are my men? Kissing the floor. I answered so calmly and concisely that he balked in disbelief. That's impossible. I sweat my balls off to build this group from the ground up, and you're saying a girl like you tore it all down just like that? I ignored his crude comment and drew closer. As I thrust my sword till it sat just between his eyes, he let out a squeal. Well, I'm no ordinary girl. I'm a bracer. And don't worry, I didn't kill them. They have only been knocked out or restrained. You'll be seeing them again soon. In prison. I shot a darkened glare in his direction as the tip of my sword wandered downward to his neck. Now, I have some questions for you, and you will answer them. The man nodded emphatically, his whole body trembling from fear. 2 children, a boy and girl under 10 years old, disappeared last month. Your people abducted them, didn't they? He nodded. I knew it. Then where are they? What did you do to them? They're in the room farther inside. They're alive. At last, I could breathe a sigh of relief. My most fundamental objective when coming here could be fulfilled. Next, I needed to ask him more about his group. I thought you all seemed far too weak to be in charge of this district of the city, but after coming across your account book, everything fell into place. You're working on behalf of someone else, aren't you? He was so unsure of how to respond that he fell completely silent, but that alone gave me my answer. Who is it then? Tell me. Is it A? I can't. He flinched in fear as I pressed him, resisting as though he genuinely couldn't say. Then, just as he opened his trembling lips to speak, I heard a strange thudding sound from outside the room. I stepped away from the man, my sword still firmly in hand. Crunching, squelching, splattering. More sounds, these more audible than the first. I didn't know what to make of them, but they made me feel an instinctive revulsion as they dragged on. They may have come accompanied by faint groans, but if they did, they faded just as soon as the sound themselves. I remained on guard as I stepped out into the hallway, ready to be attacked from any angle at any moment. And the sight that greeted me defied all expectations, or all imagination. The mobsters I fought through mere minutes before were now nothing more than distorted, mutilated piles of flesh and bone. Not just one or two, every single one of them without exception had been reduced to bloodied mounds. Some were without heads, others had their organs ripped from their abdomens. Then there were those with the skulls caved in and leaking pulverized brain matter, the ones with their hearts ripped and pulled, squeezed. Each corpse was different. Each corpse was unbearable to look at. Yo, what the fuck? The plain hallway I traversed with all due speed was now covered in a sticky, slimy red. Who could have done something like this? The sight was so awful that my free hand now clenched shook from disgust. When was it ever necessary to go this far? What could anyone have to gain from this? Wait. No. Common VN writing style? The switch up? I realized I just made a very careless mistake. I turned and hurried back into the room I was just in. Brother is gonna be meat too! I was too late. The Mafia's leader was floating in the air at the center of the room, as though some unknown force was holding him up by his chest. A monstrous sword pierced through his chest. A single streak of blood dripped from his unspeaking mouth. There was no room to believe he was anything but dead. Like all the others in the hallway, he didn't even have time to scream before his life was taken. Who are you? I barked at the center of the room, trying to drown out my instinctive fear with anger. At a glance, only the corpse and I were present, but if I strained my eyes, I could also see the faint contours of another distorting the space around them. It must have been some form of active camouflage. It would have been I would have thought it a basic courtesy to give your name before asking another. Charming ace, wait, hold on. This is the thing. I don't know what it is. Charming ace of the Bracers Guild. It was a man's voice that projected true arrogance, as though he were above all others as a matter of course. I instinctively readied myself for battle in response, but my actions seemed not to faze him in the slightest. No need to be spoiling for a fight. I'm simply here to take out the trash after they were careless enough to leave a trail for the CID to follow. Was I really talking to a fellow human being? How could he speak of such gruesome murders in those terms? Are you a business partner of theirs? No. You must be from the group above them. Oh, are you a business partner of theirs? No. No, you must be from a group above them. Very good. He then swung his blade to slide. To slide and tossed the corpse off to the side, with all the respect of a used cigarette. How could you treat people you worked with like this? People? Have you heard your ears? I said nothing about taking out a person, only trash. The same applies to the garbage piling up in the hallway. They have always been so, even before they stopped breathing. It was clear that communicating with someone of his nature was impossible. I dismissed calm reason for an intense, all-consuming anger so great that my entire body couldn't stop trembling. You monster! Before I knew it, I'd sprung into action, pouting every drop of my strength into my blade to launch a swift, unavoidable strike. But he repelled it with one vertical swing of his own. This one exchange was enough to tell me that his strength was well a league above mine. He parried my blow at the first perfect instant, canceling out the force of my attack with so little effort that it barely scratched the surface of what he was capable of. The act of camouflage did nothing to hide the monstrous nature of his cruciform sword either. Its design combined silver and black in an unholy fusion of darkness and light, as if chaos itself dwelled within its very blade. It was no common weapon. Even if I continued to give it my all, my odds of winning against him were extremely slim. But at the same time, my instincts were screaming at me that I couldn't allow him to leave. I charged again. If attacking him from the front wasn't going to work, then I'd have to go from the side. He blocked that attack with just as little effort. But I wasn't done. I refused to stop moving, slashing a third time, with even more speed than the first two. Oh, he kind of peek? I showered him in a flurry of them, each one faster than the last. When I finally reached my physical limit, I darted in a new direction, attacking him from behind. I put my very soul into one overwhelming attack aimed directly at his rear, which I could only just make out through the camouflage distortion. I got him. However, the second I became sure that victory was within my grasp, his cruciform blade carved a great arc through the air in a ferocious spinning slash. I was able to instantly defend myself against the blow, but the force of it sent me flying backwards. I was fortunate enough not to have sustained a direct hit, but my body shook from now being able to fully cancel out its massive weight. Still, I forced myself back to my feet and glared at his form. The difference between us was night and day. It felt as though he could manipulate the very flow of battle, much like a master of martial arts who understood the true nature of all things. He paid no mind to my pitiful attempts at bravado, and gave a short laugh before speaking. Impressive. You put up more of a fight than the rumors had led me to believe. What's your goal? What are you trying to do with all your strength? I expected him to reject or ignore me, so I was taken aback when he paused for a sincere moment of thought before answering. An interesting question. I suppose to instill fear. Fear? I almost doubted my ears. Wait, is this, did I read that right? Is this the big guy, or the invisible guy? He kind of talking evil here, so I think this is the evil guy. Fear is at the heart of all we know. Domination, servitude, order, harmony, production, all of it exists because of fear. That is why I seek to instill fear in its purest form, much like the retributive tower that appeared in Crossbell half a year ago. Such a pity that it fell. There was such pleasure in his words that it made it easy to imagine the expression of his veiled face. As insane as what he was saying sounded to me, I knew he meant every word of it. You really are a monster. Continue your fruitless attempts to stop me, and you'll understand what I mean in due time. He lowered his blade. As a parting gift for assisting me in my house cleaning efforts, I'll let you and those children go. Keep that far too pristine blade sharp for our next meeting, Bracer. With that, he turned to leave. But wait! Just as I extended my hand, the ground below him emitted a bright glow, and by the time that glow had faded, he was gone. He had likely used the same teleportation spell that certain other criminal organizations were known to rely on. His departure also released all the strength I had left in me, not from relief, but from the exact opposite. I was so overwhelmed with frustration that I let him leave, so afraid of what he might go on to do because I couldn't stop him, that I lost the strength to even stand. Of course, this is just who I've always been. I haven't changed one bit since the day you left me. I'm still the same powerless girl I was back then. My work here wasn't finished yet. I walked to the next room. I opened the door and was greeted by what appeared to be an old storage space. There, across the hall, I found who I was searching for. The brother and sister pair were crouched against the wall, the boy trembling on the floor as his sister stood close by. It's okay. I'm here to help you. I kept my tone as gentle and reassuring as I was able. The girl smiled while the older brother continued to hide his face. I slowly walked towards them, careful not to make any sudden moves, but as I did, the boy shook his head vigorously. His whole body trembled more the closer I got, as though he were telling me to stay away. The answer from that man flashed in my mind. Fear is at the heart of all we know. These poor children were very much in fear's clutches. No matter how gradual I was in closing the distance between myself and the boy, trying my best not to provoke him, his body language showed he continued to reject me. We were now within arm's length of one another. His shaking grew more violent, and though he opened his mouth to speak, his voice refused to come out. It's all right. I smiled, a most comforting smile. And after that, I reached out behind me and grasped the blade of the knife that was being thrust towards me. Wait, what? I turned swiftly, my fingers never letting go, and found the one gripping the hilt to be none other than the sister. She tiptoed around my back while I was kneeling to meet her brother and tried to stab me from behind. She was a bit startled by my halting her attack, but otherwise she stared blankly forward, emotion on her face nowhere to be seen. I suppose he was right about fear. It controls everything we do. You must have been through something terrifying if it made you resort to this. No doubt they were now conditioned by fear to attack anyone who came to their rescue. I paid no mind to the blood from my bare hand slowly dripping to the floor. The cut from the knife was nothing compared to everything else in the moment. My first priority instead was to reassure the girl that I meant no harm. But we as humans are capable of more than just giving in to that fear. We can fight it. With courage, we can fight it. Your brother was doing that just now. He may have been gripped by fear, but he still fought his hardest through his actions to alert me of the danger his sister posed. Even if it took all he had, he wanted to keep me safe and to keep her from committing an irreversible, regrettable act. It was thanks to him that I noticed she was trying to do what she was trying to do. You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm a bracer. I'll keep you safe. I took the girl into my arms. You're a bracer? Even her voice was devoid of emotion. That's right. I'm here to help you. Oh, I think I've seen you in a magazine before. Something Blade, I think. That's right. The nickname is a little embarrassing, but I'd be happy if you remembered it. That way, as long as you hear it, you'll know I'm here to keep you out of harm's way. I tightened my grip around her, as if it was to stop anything more from hurting her and surround her heart with my warmth. It really will be okay. I promise. I noticed her eyes twitching just slightly, and before long, her eyes filled with tears. Soon after, she began to sniffle. At first, a small one here and there, but they gradually grew more pronounced, eventually turning into uncontrollable sobs. She had finally been liberated from her fear. As for me, I had stayed my course. I was too afraid to deviate from my current path. Still, I had chosen this path with pride in my heart. Wait just a fucking second, this track? Is this the first I've heard it in this game? Still, I had chosen this path with pride in my heart. I didn't think it right to turn my back on it now. But I wasn't going to let it be an aimless journey from now on either. And so, it was another day in the Edith branch of Calvert's Guild. It sounded like the Mafia was trying to copy what that other organization of assassins managed to pull off. Only for this daydream? I was discussing that recent case with Zen. The siblings had indeed been abducted because they witnessed an illegal transaction. The Mafia involved then thought to mimic a group of assassins known for raising children, with the intent of turning them into professional killers. Their attempts thankfully proved as unsuccessful as their attempts to remain covert in selling drugs. The CID found them, and whoever they were working for purged them. Hell of a way to go. If I hadn't been so incompetent, maybe they wouldn't have been purged at all. Don't beat yourself up over it. The Guild's priority is to keep civilians safe, not criminals. I don't want to say they deserved it for getting involved in organized crime, but it is what it is. Try putting that frustration you're feeling into more personal growth instead of letting it eat you alive. I was told that while the siblings were going to need psychological counseling for some time, they were fully expected to recover and go back to their everyday lives. My meeting with them had triggered something inside me. I came to realize that something needed to change. I had to take some kind of step forward. Even if it ended in me falling to the floor in some dramatic fashion, I needed to pick myself back up again. I really like her character. With that in mind, I accepted my multiple recommendations. The time we live in demands a new hero. Doing so made me think of what my childhood friend said to me. I didn't believe I had what it took to be a hero. But if I could even be just a brief one able to give the people hope and banish the darkness ahead, then that was reason enough to keep going. The cameo's already here? Maybe that could make me somebody enough to fight alongside the real hero once they came to light. Well, shall we get down to business? Zin turned his face to me, his classic broad grin, even broader than usual. It'll be a while longer before the official paperwork arrives from the headquarters, but I'm sure they won't mind me speeding up this part of the process with how much they wanted this. The Republic now has a bracer who reached A rank, at the same age as the Empire's Purple Lightning. Congrats on your promotion, Elaine Auclair, Beauty's Blade. We made it, y'all! Were there always 3 lines here? Did it start with 2? And then give me that 3rd line when I got forward sword in hand? Because that'd be pretty cool. I didn't catch that. But the way they appeared makes me feel like it did. It opened the final one between the first 2, yeah. Suspension of causality, recording engine activity confirmed. Force connection to astral link severed. The whirlpool of causality engulfing Erebos and the fated land has at last been unraveled. Though the bell ringing in the end of days has yet to be silenced. You, children of Zemuria, have earned your moment of peace until the time comes to face the final hour. After this, I do want to talk about something. Until you, with hope and fear in your hearts, must walk new trails. I want to kind of pre-aim the recipe that Kondo is cooking. Okay, so we've dealt with a couple of Septarians. We've dealt with Earth and Fire here in Airbonia. We've dealt with Mirage in Crossbell. We've dealt with Space in Sky in Liberl, right? So that leaves only a couple of Septarians left. We should have Time, Wind, and Water. Time, Wind, and Water, yeah. So I was talking to some people when I went to AX, and I was sitting at the Trails panels while we were waiting for the panel to start. Shout out to Isaiah and Shannon, I think? Where we were thinking, where do we expect Daybreak forward to go? So we're kind of thinking there was a chance that the Septarian of Wind and Water might already be gone. The Septarian of Wind might have existed in Nord before it became part of the Empire or something. And that's why the people of Nord have such a connection to the Wind. And why they're able to tell so much from the Wind. Water? Maybe the Salt Pails, I don't know. That one's kind of a little loose. Which kind of left us to believe that in Calvard, in Daybreak, we're probably going to be dealing with the Septarian of Time. Because maybe the Water Septarian, the Water and Wind Septarian might already be gone. and they might get like some sort of like, we might get some sort of like aha moment or something later. I don't know. But we're pretty confident. We're pretty confident that the Daybreak, that Calvard, the Septarian that they have is the Septarian of Time, because we were thinking, oh, okay, like wind might be like the Nord Highlands, and then water could have been like Northumbria, and the consequence of the water Septarian being gone might have been the salt pails, which is something we might learn from like Arteria and the Septarian, the church. Like, that's why they hid it so well. Maybe they were responsible for it, you know? Anyways, yeah, only one way to find out. We have to let them cook. We have to let Kondo cook. That being said, this has been quite the ride. We made it just in time. Another theory about water gone too is the desertification in Central East. Yeah, that too. Like, there's a lot of things that might ink me to believe that like water and wind might be gone. Wind is maybe a little lighter because North Highlands is big, but I don't think it's as big. Well, Mirage did get Crossbell, and Crossbell's not gigantic. I think that might just be like a little too many Septarians hanging out in like the Erebonian region, though. To be fair, because like yeah, yeah, and then I saw the map of all of Zemuria for the first time when I went to the Tracing the Trails panel. And Kondo was there. He was talking about how like the map was made like pretty much 20 years ago, and they're just like acting on like every single one of them. He was talking about wanting to do something in every single province, and just like all the meanings behind all of that, which was really cool. I took like a loose picture, but I think I did find it online too. Like, hold on, let me see. Like the picture I took at the panel was this one, which was pretty cool to look at. Is it this screen? It is my Asus, yeah. Oh, that's not it. Wait, I dragged it on the wrong screen. This one here. Yeah, and we got Kondo over here. Our chef. So yeah, it's like we're gonna be all of here. And I think Arteria is up here. So whatever is gonna happen, well, you know, we'll see. But it's just insane to look at the map and be able to think like, oh, it might be the NA brain in me. It might be the NA brain in me, but I think I could probably tell you more about the continent of Zemuria than I could of Europe. Cause like, I could tell you, Liberl, Erebonia, Crossbell, Calvard, Jurai, Northumbria, what, maybe like, these two are questionable. I think this one is supposed to be Arteria though. This one might be like Le Mans. And then the rest here, I'm not familiar with. Or Ored Remferia, right. I think this one is Remferia, this one is Ored though, then. Like if you made me flip the coin 50-50, I might have got it. Le Mans at top near Arteria, okay. But yeah. We're so invested in the world. Yeah, like it's so crazy. Like just another thing too. Another to like beam off of how much fun I had at my AX experience. Like it was so much fun to like sit down and wait for the panel. Like that was probably the best part. Sitting down, waiting for the panel and talking with so many other people who are so interested in the world and the franchise as I am, you know? Like it was just so easy to strike a conversation, and that's what I love about like media like this. Lucky I'm not spoiled. Yeah, we do not know. We do not know. Yeah, luckily the people I was talking to also weren't spoiled. Like, we were all roughly in the same boat. Like, I think it might have been just Shannon, who hadn't gone through Reverie yet. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love Reverie. Reverie was so good. They cooked. I think every story was good. Rain plotline, Lloyd plotline, especially Rufus plotline, and then all the daydreams were really, really good too. I don't think they missed. Even though like the Lloyd Reen one might have been like sort of retelling, it was absolutely absolute peak. We will be there for Daybreak next week. I'm excited. I almost want to like 100% this game too. But anyways, for Daybreak, Nightmare is easy. Oh, yeah. I felt like the games have kind of progressively got easier and easier. Maybe we will be there for Nightmare Daybreak. Although I have heard you can't really cheese it as hard as Reverie, Cold Steel 4, Cold Steel 3. GG, congrats on Reverie. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sticking around. Really appreciate you, everyone's company who stuck by. It's so much fun to kind of experience it with you guys, so. On to the next. Take care, y'all. Happy Saturday, happy Sunday. Peace, peace. Oh yes, and I did save, thank you.